Welcome, gang, to yet another Friday Foolish. I see Candice is waiting backstage eagerly. I'm going to be adding her here shortly. I'm sorry if I seem out of breath. I just got an order in for a few groceries that I was picking up, and they came just a few minutes before we started this show. And so I was hurriedly trying to get the dog food put up out of the dog's way so they wouldn't tear open the bag of dog food before I could get it put in the container. And it was a 40 something pound, like a 45-pound bag of dog food. So I'm not a small chick by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not real strong either. It was a little bit of a struggle getting that 45-pound bag of dog food into the house and putting it up high enough for the dogs to stay out of it right now. Hey, Blair. But in other news, this is going to be Candice and I's first official paranormal show. Hopefully, we'll have more to come in the future on the Friday Foolish show. Earlier this week, on Wednesday night, Chris and I and Candace, towards the end, shared a few of our paranormal stories. But I tried to save the really juicy ones for today. And TJ, if you're in here, I got the EVP recordings. I got my Waverly Hills pictures and my video, and I'm ready to share. So, barring any technical snafus, I should be able to share that with you guys today. I also, I'm not going to be using it because I don't use Ouija boards alone. I will simply be showing it. So anybody that's freaked out by a visual of a Ouija board, and I'm not being funny, I'm not making fun of you. If you are freaked out by that thing and do not want to see a Ouija board, beware that I'm going to be showing it at some point in time during the stream. So for those of you that have an aversion to Ouija boards, I totally understand, and will not be upset if you have to vacate while I'm showing this. I will also be showing some of my paranormal investigation tools. I do actually have a kit. I haven't had it out in a little while, but I will show you some of that as we go along. Um, so, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and add Candace here. It looks like she is ready. Hey,
Hey.
Candace. And we both got our shirts on today.
Yep, got them on today.
We're soon going to have another shirt, the Scooby Doo horror mashup shirt with me and Candace in royal blue that we can switch
Yes.
out with our Friday Foolish. I've just got to get those made. Plus, I have some other custom made shirts. Just a note, guys and gals, I do custom work on shirts, and Candace was my first official order for some custom shirts. I have all of the shirts in, and I'm really excited to start working on those and getting them shipped out to her.
Oh, yeah, can't wait to get them.
TJ, you say, awesome. I'm on the treadmill watching. Okay, you're going to. Now, my feelings will not be hurt, guys and gals. If some of you are skeptical of the EVP recording and or the pictures and the video that I have from Waverly Hills, I just simply want to share that today. And if you say, oh, Dana, you're full of crap, that's not a ghost, that's not an entity that you witnessed or whatever, my feelings will not be hurt because I know there are skeptics out there. And I'm not on here, and I don't think Candace is on here today to try to force people into
No.
being believers. We're just sharing our stories here, and you can take away from that whatever you wish.
Yeah.
If you still come away from this saying, they're full of it, our feelings won't be hurt.
No.
We will still go on and do our thing every day. Well, TJ, that is a good point. You believe screw the naysayers, but I know I don't necessarily call them naysayers. I may call them skeptics. I may call them non-believers
Yeah.
in any event. But that's okay. That's what makes the world go round. That we're all not exactly the same. We don't all have exactly the same belief system. And it's okay
Yeah.
to be skeptical. It's okay not to just follow the crowd and say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, that's all correct, because that would be creepy. That would
Yeah.
be cult mentality. We don't want that any of that. We want everybody to have their own ideas, their own opinions, and all of that. As long as you don't hurt somebody's feelings, and say you're stupid or something like that. You can have any opinion that you like. Um, so um, we've got Blissful in here. We've got TJ in here. Blair's in here. We've got 6 total people in here, maybe 5, because I think that StreamYard counts whoever my guest is. So it's probably counting Candice in the mix. So I have sent the link to Chris as well in case he wanted to come on here with us during this lunch break or whatever. If not, that's okay. Me and Candace will carry on. If there's any of you in the chat or that come in later that would like to come on here and discuss or have a good healthy debate with me and Candace on this stuff, you are welcome to come on as well. Candace always count. That's right. Candace does always
Thank
count.
you, TJ.
She's a very important part of this show. I would not have Friday Foolish without Candace. Um, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, I did order me some alcohol today, folks, from Chili's, and I got my lunch. So when they get here, or about when they're here, I will have to go and take my ID and go to the door and show them that, one, that I'm not already intoxicated, and 2, that I'm of age and I am who I say I am, before they give me this alcohol. So I will leave you in Candace's capable hands when I have to do that. So anyway, Candace, do you want to kick it off and share one of your stories, or do you want me to start
Well,
it on?
since I came on and hijacked the show that you had the other day, I'll let you start this one off. But I do want to mention that I really like the icon.
Oh, you like the ghost? That is an AI ghost that I created just for this show.
Yeah, I've seen that whenever I come on. I was like, oh, she's created a new icon for this. So I like that. Yeah. But no, you go ahead and you start us off.
Well, I guess, and a warning again, that I'm about ready to show my handmade Ouija board. So seriously, folks, if you have an aversion, if you don't want to see these things, even if you don't want to be in digital proximity to these things, I understand. Um, I won't fool with these things by myself because that scares the crap out of me. The thought of I will not use it by myself at
That's
all.
one of the rules.
That
Never
is
use it
one of
alone.
the rules. You never, never, never use these things by yourself. Always have at least one other person
Yeah.
utilizing the board with you if you are going to use it. Now, I have not used this particular board at all because I haven't been able to find anybody that Steve won't use it with me.
I don't blame him.
My neighbor Kim, even though she's interested in all, supernatural entities and all that, she's nervous about using it. And I respect that. So I have not actually used this board at all, but I think it's pretty cool. And it is usually located in me and Steve's bedroom, although I don't make a point of saying, hey, Steve, you know that handmade Ouija board I bought? It's in our bedroom, because I think that might make him nervous. But I like the look of it. these are one of a kind boards. I don't know where the guy gets the material to make these. He could get them from a variety of places. Um, but this is my handmade Ouija board, and it gives you the directions on the back. I don't know if you can see that real good, but it has a sticker with the directions on the back. I mean, I really like it because of the old school quality and the rustic quality of it. I mean, it has your yes and no on there. It has the numbers, it has goodbye, it has the letters on it, and it has the symbols at the corners, the sun and the moon, and two stars at the bottom. Um, but if you notice, this does not say Ouija anywhere on the board. And the reason behind this is that Parker Brothers owns Ouija, and they will not let anybody else put Ouija on their board. So this is simply listed as a spirit geist board. Okay. So if you noticed on there that it did not say Ouija anywhere on it, that is why, because Parker Brothers will send you a nasty cease and desist letter if you use Ouija on a handmade board that you create. So I'm guessing this guy doesn't want to get sued, and I can't blame
Yeah.
him. So, and this is the planchette that came with the board. And everybody that's familiar with Ouija boards knows that the planchette, two people place their hands on either side of the planchette, and it supposedly moves across the board as you're asking questions. And when a letter or number ends up right in here, that is what's used to spell out different things. Now, I have heard that some of the spirits don't spell very well. Some of the spirits are pranksters, and they like to, just like a human beings like to prank each other sometimes, or play jokes on each other. Some spirits are playful that way, and they like to, mess around with you a little bit, and they will, tell you things that are half truths, or sometimes outright lies, and attempt to be, I got you, So evidently in the spirit world, the sense of humor is big there too, and that's only for the good spirits. That's for the benevolent, the ones that don't mean you any harm. They just, like to play around. Now, another word of warning, there are dark spirits out there. There are spirits that will attach themselves to you. And that's why I say, if you believe in the Ouija board, even if you don't believe in the Ouija board, I'm going to tell you this warning: be very, very careful if you use one of these. If you choose to use one of these, number one, always have someone else using the board with you. Number two, please, I beg of you, don't be facetious with this. Don't treat it as you can treat it as a joke if you're not using a Ouija board. Do not, I implore you, do not treat it as, um, I may have to get out of here real quick and go take care of my order. I'm going to leave you in Candace's capable hands. I'll be right.
Okay, so since Dana is talking about a Ouija board, and I call it a Ouija board, that's just what I've always called it. Um, it actually reminded me of a story that I wasn't even going to talk about. But while she's gone, I will tell it. I have used a Ouija board. In fact, it was a glow in the dark Ouija board that I had bought. Me and my childhood best friend had bought at Walmart when we were like 11 and a half, 12 years old. So my childhood best friend, literally, she's, I've seen her all the time. She about stayed with each other. And we were interested in, scary movies and all that good stuff. So we had seen a Ouija board at Walmart and we decided to buy it. And my mom to this day says, I don't ever remember allowing you all to buy a Ouija board. I said, well, you did. You did. Um, so we bought it. I can't remember if my mom approved of it or if we just kind of slid by her and got it without her knowing it. I can't remember that. But my friend lived in some apartments, some historical apartments here where I'm from. And these apartments in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s was a grand hotel. It was a really awesome place back in that time, especially for our area. It was like the hotel of, the talk of the town. And if I sound like I have a frog in my throat, it's because the other day I was feeling a little sick. Well, I've caught something, so I may sound a little rough, and I do apologize. But the apartments that she lived in, they were old, very old, and had a lot of history. They had, you know, succumbed to fires over the years. A lot of death occurred within the as it was a hotel. I think people came here during like the Prohibition, like from up north, and some people came to these hotels and they had gunfights and everything. A lot of stuff happened at this place that she lived. So they were very old and very creepy. So we decided to take the Ouija board to a sleepover that we were having at her house, and some of our friends were going to be joining us. They had never stayed with us, and in fact, their parents wouldn't even let them stay all the way overnight. They were actually down in the cars waiting on them. They said, "Well, you can stay till 2 or 3, and after you guys get ready to go to bed or something, just come on out." So they wouldn't even let them stay at my friend's house. They were kind of down in the parking lot waiting on them. But they let them stay, past midnight and stuff like that. So we decided to finally get the Ouija board out, and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know anything about that. So I was apprehensive at first. I was like, I don't think I want to do this, because I started getting scared, because I was always creeped out by that place anyway, and that's why I never liked staying all night with her. And they was like, "No, come on, you gotta do it, you're the one that helped buy it, this is fun, it's not gonna be anything bad." And I scaredy cat that I was, I decided to play along with it. So we got the Ouija board out, and the way that her room was set up, she did not have a door on her room. She didn't. I don't know where it was, but she didn't have a door. What she had a sheet that had been stapled. I'm just telling you the truth of what it was. It was a sheet that had been stapled to the door frame, and that's what she had. Okay, and in her window she had a air conditioner, and it was during probably spring. It probably wasn't really time for the air conditioner stuff. So the air conditioner wasn't turned on or anything like that. So we were all sitting there, and there was like a street lamp that it was like shining through her window, and we had all the lights out and had candles on. And we just started, you know, playing around with it. Everybody put their hands on it. It was me, her, and I think 3 other girls. And all through the night, we've been playing, like, that was back whenever the craft was really popular. So everybody was doing that light as a feather, stiff as a board stuff. We was doing stuff trying to freak ourselves out and tell stories and all this stuff. So when we got to into the Ouija board stuff, you know, I think we all were kind of a little nervous, but we were like giggling because we were just like giddy, and we really didn't think anything was going to happen. But we just started asking, you know, if anybody was around to let us know if they had anything they wanted to tell us, let us know. I think we asked for Kurt Cobain if he was around, stuff like that. If Kurt Cobain, if you're around, let us know. Dana, I'm telling my story
Oh,
about
yeah.
using the Ouija board.
Okay, continue,
And
please.
I hadn't even thought about telling this story, but you reminded me of it. I said, "Oh, that's a good one."
Mhm.
So we really didn't think anything was going to happen. So we kind of got bored with it. Nothing did happen. We just got bored with it and kind of just threw it to the side. Well, one of the girls, probably 30 minutes later, 30, 40 minutes later, we had forgotten about the Ouija board. It was just cast to the side, kind of, the planchette had fallen off the board into the floor. And um, one of the girls looked around and said, I just seen something. We was like, what did you see? And she just kind of was staring at that Ouija board. And she said, I just seen the planchette move onto the board. And I was like, no, somebody's picked it up and put it there. No, I seen it move onto the board. And at this point, you start getting spooked, but you know that it's not. You know that it's not. You know that it's not anything supernatural. You just know that it's something that's in your mind, but you're wanting to play along because you're getting spooked. And we just kind of dismissed her, but she kept on insisting, no, I seen it move. So we decided to sit back down and put the planchette back onto the board, and everybody sat back down and said, well, let's try it one more time. Well, this time it moved. When we put our hands on it, it was all, and we was like, you're moving, like stuff you see in the movies, you're moving it. No, you're moving it. But this was different. Like you could feel like there was air underneath it. It didn't feel like anybody was moving. It wasn't dragging or anything like that. It felt like it was floating. And it started like spelling out some letters. And we started saying the letters that it was spelling out. And in my mind, I'm still thinking, this is somebody else doing this. They're doing it. It just feels this way to me that it's floating. It's not real, but it's spelled out here, HERE. That's all it spelled out. And whenever it spelled that out, we kind of threw it down again. We were like, ooh, you jump back and kind of act like you're scared. As soon as we threw it down, still in my mind, and I think all the girls' minds too, we think that it's, you want to be scared and you want to believe, but you still don't. When we threw it down, Dana, spawning both spontaneously, both the air conditioner turned on, and this, because I was telling them, I don't think you wasn't here yet. She didn't have a door on her room. She just had a sheet that was stapled. The top of it was stapled on her door frame. The air conditioner turned on and the staples pulled out, like the sheet was like pulled out of the door frame, and it just fell to the floor. No explanation for that. And we turned around, the air conditioner wasn't even plugged in. And we screamed, got out of there. My friend's mom wasn't even home. We were alone. She wasn't even home. I won't get into that. But my like three of the friends that was with us, their parents were down in the parking lot waiting on them. So they left. They left and we ran out, and I remember one of the friends that was with us, their mom, she was like, why are you all scared to death? And they were like saying something. They got mad. They got mad because we were playing with the Ouija board because they told on us. So me and my friend went back up to her room, and we're scared. I mean, we're frightened because this, you know, who could explain that? And we know that air conditioner was on. We heard it. It's right there in her window. When we got back up there, it was off. And I told her, I said, how do you know that it wasn't plugged in when it come on? And then one of the girls accidentally pulled it out, and that's why it's off. She said, "No, that was not plugged in to begin with. I know it wasn't." Well, anyways, let's just say we didn't sleep that night. But after that, I said, "I'll never touch one again." And she told me that couple nights after using that board, that there was a man in her doorway standing, and she would see like she said she would never see him like while she was like fully awake, but she would like wake up and she would see like a man standing there. And by the time her eyes focused and stuff, he would be gone. So she said she'd never had that happen until we had played with that Ouija board. So I said, I'll never play with one again. I
Mhm.
mean, there could be explanations as to why that thing ripped off her door, the sheet ripped off her door, and why the air conditioner was on. You know, it could have been plugged up and it could have just came on. Who knows? But that was weird. I
Yeah,
said,
I mean,
I'll never fool with that ever again.
to me, it's too much of a coincidence
Hmm.
to happen. And I've had strange things happen to me over time. I don't think I've had quite the experiences that Candace has had.
Hmm.
Candace, in my opinion, appears to be, and I think she'll say this too, is one of those really sensitive people that is
I'm an
actually,
empath. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't think I am. I think that I'm probably as regular a Jane or Joe as you come. Uh, but I do believe that there are empaths. There are people that are very sensitive
Yeah.
to these, I don't know, entities, otherworldly beings, supernatural, paranormal, whatever you want to call them. These entities. My neighbor Kim next door. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get into the Waverly Hills stuff. But I treated her to a half night paranormal investigation at Waverly Hills for mine and hers birthday because our birthdays are basically 3 days apart. Mine's on the 6th, hers is on the 9th of June. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool? Because she'd always said she wanted to go to Waverly Hills. So I got us tickets. And thank goodness I got her husband a ticket as well because she became violently ill
Mhm.
during the early parts of the investigation and could not continue. She literally had to leave the building, go out to the car, and sit and wait for me and her husband to complete the investigation. And she cried because she really wanted to do this, but she just simply could not. I had never seen anybody have that kind of reaction before, and it really shocked me. Um, and I believe this to be true. I don't think she was faking. She was scared to death. Her eyes were this big, they were as big as saucers. She was pale. um, she said that on her way out of the building, she was gagging like she was going to throw up. Um, and even the guides that were taking us around to different places in Waverly and letting us investigate each section of the building in turn said that they had seen that before with some people. They don't see it a lot, but occasionally they will see people that are very sensitive to
Yeah.
the spirits. And the guide even told the spirits to quit messing with Kim, that they were scaring her, that they were making her physically ill, and it stopped for a little bit. Actually, the guide took Kim out on the roof of Waverly, and she sat down and got the fresh air and stuff like that. She began to feel better, but the minute she went back into the building, it started again. Her eyes got big again. Her face went white as a sheet. I won't say why as a ghost because we're talking about ghosts, but why as a sheep. Um, she acted like she was in a daze. She acted like almost like something or someone was moving her along. It's and she There was even one time where we were walking past one of the rooms in Waverly and she stopped And me and Troy, her husband, were going ahead, and we looked back and we said, Kim, what are you doing? Because she walked into the doorway of her room and she just stood there staring. And she really couldn't answer us. It was something I'd never seen before. It was like she was in a sleepwalking state or something like that. And Candice may be familiar with this type of behavior. Um, but that was the first time I had ever seen anything like that. And I was intrigued, but yet at the same time, I felt really bad for Kim because one, she couldn't uh, join in with the rest of the investigation like she wanted to. And two, it was just really freaky to see someone react that way.
Yeah.
But TJ, you say the Conjuring House is about 90 minutes from you. You can book visits or ghost hunting events.
Mm-mm.
The Conjuring House, I don't know. I've seen that movie. I don't
No.
know if I would want to go in there. I'm intrigued by it. I'm interested in it. But just like the Amityville Horror House, I don't think I could go in it, knowing the things that supposedly
No.
went on in both of those locations.
Yeah.
It and two, I like to be in a controlled environment, and I don't know how controlled both of those. I,
Yeah.
I don't even think you could go in the Amityville Horror House. I think someone lives in that
They
house,
do, I think so.
and they don't like people coming on the property, and they're very angry that the Lutz family, who was the last family to live there,
Yeah.
that said that there were some, funny goings on in there.
Yeah.
And they blame the Lutzes for, sensationalizing all of that and people showing up all the time.
I mean, the DeFeos, what
That,
happened to them there, Ronald
yeah,
DeFeo, he's the one that should be blamed for it all.
yeah, he's the one that, shot his whole family. And that's a weird story we can
Mhm.
discuss too, because I've read up on that stuff. I don't know how many of you got Candace probably has, but I don't know how many of you in the chat have read up on the history
I
of
read the book.
yeah, I did too.
It's so scary.
It's very, very unsettling, to say the least. Um, yeah, I believe you're right, TJ, that a few families have lived in that house in Amityville since
Yeah,
the Lutzes.
and I don't think they've had any experiences.
Mm-mm. But that's still, there's skeptics with the Amityville horror. Some people say, it's a bunch of crap. The Lutzes were full of it. They were just trying to make money. But you got to think about what happened. And again, I'm not trying to influence y'all's beliefs and thoughts on this. I'm just saying, for me, considering the history of that house and when the DeFeos lived there and the tragedy that befell the DeFeo family, and the fact that Ronnie DeFeo used a high powered shotgun. He didn't use a rifle, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it was a shotgun. He didn't use a handgun. I don't think he was in any position where he would have put a silencer of any sort on
Yeah.
there. He was using a shotgun. He shot every family member as they slept in the head, with
Mom,
the
dad,
exception of his sister Dawn, who they say may have woken up and he chased her down and killed
yeah,
her. That's the only one. The rest of them were shot execution style in their bed. They never woke up. How do you not hear a shotgun blast?
yeah.
How? The neighbors didn't hear anything.
Very
How do
odd.
neighbors that live on either side of them not hear multiple shotgun blasts? I just tell you to think about that, and it is said that when there's spiritual activity at work, no matter whether it's a dark entity or a good entity, certain sounds will not be heard
Yeah.
by outside sources. Um,
And he
and
just
so,
left after killing his family, went to a bar,
yeah, he did.
right?
Hmm.
And he says voices told him to do it. So, but I've heard that rumor that TJ, he said there's a rumor Don was part of killing the family from. I've heard that
I
rumor
have heard
before.
that too.
I don't really think so, though. I just think I think something was wrong with him, you know,
Yeah, if it wasn't supernatural stuff, he evidently had some
mental.
kind of a mental issue going on because normal people don't shoot their families in the head as they sleep. They just don't, you know.
Yeah, no.
Uh, and, when he went to the bar, I believe the bartender and maybe some of the people that were in the bar said that basically he busted in there and said, "Somebody's killed my whole family." He didn't say, "I have killed my whole family." He said, "Someone has murdered my whole family." And as time went on, it was revealed that, yes, he did kill them. He said he heard voices. Some people have said that the lawyer for Ronnie DeFeo contacted the Lutzes, and that the three of them, George and Kathy Lutz and Ronnie DeFeo's lawyer, cooked up this
Mm,
story as a defense
hmm,
for Ronnie DeFeo and to make money
yeah,
off of the things. And I don't know. I personally don't buy that theory
mm,
because why would George and Kathy Lutz be involved with Ronnie DeFeo's lawyer, first of all?
exactly, and then there's a priest that had experienced that, right? He
Hmm.
goes there, and he
Yeah.
hears, like, voices, and there's, like, flies everywhere, you know, and, like, in the window, and why
It
would
wasn't
he be involved in that?
necessarily, yeah, it
Was he got,
wasn't
like, really sick
necessarily
or
like
something like that?
the movie, but it
Yeah.
was,
I
yeah,
mean, from the book, I mean, think I remember him
yeah,
saying,
exactly.
that he felt ill or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Pretty
And
sure it was in the book.
he had to leave the house. He became
Yeah,
ill, just the same way my friend Kim, my neighbor Kim,
yeah,
felt ill in Waverly Hills. Some people are extra sensitive
yeah.
to those entities, whether good or evil. Yeah, TJ, I have seen that mysterious kid photo from the
Yeah,
Amityville investigation. I don't know, TJ. It's possible it could be faked,
it's
but
creepy.
it is creepy in any event. I don't know really whether that's real or not, but it is one creepy photo.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think it would. I will say this though. I think back in those days that it would be a lot harder to fake a photo than it would be now
Oh,
with
yeah, definitely.
software that we have now, Photoshop and all of those different things. You could easily fake a photo
I
or
mean, they
doctor.
could, do the whole, like, double exposure thing. I know that was a big thing back in the spiritual world back in the olden days, a lot of double exposure, like these soothsayers or whatever, these people who would go and hold seances and stuff. Um, they would take these pictures and stuff, but they would use double exposure to kind of fool, the people that were hiring them to come there and hold these seances and stuff like that. That was a big thing because I'm actually part of a group who like just they specialize in that kind of thing. They're interested in that, and I find it interesting. I mean, because even knowing that it's like double exposure or something that they've done, some of that stuff looks creepy
Yeah.
to me.
Just from that standpoint, it's intriguing
It
to
is.
look at and even to figure out how they did it, how they created this stuff. Um, but they could do it back then.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they couldn't do it.
Not like they could today.
But they could do it very easily.
Mhm.
Me and Candace could do it. Now, I'm telling you guys and gals, though, before I show you that Waverly Hills photo, I did no doctoring to this photo other than blowing it up so that you could see the entity or whatever you want to call it better, and actually drawing a red line around her so that you could see her clearly. But other than that, I did no manipulation whatsoever to the photo. I didn't add her to the photo. She was there. I just didn't see her when I was actually at Waverly Hills. This was like after the fact, which, if you guys and Candace want me to, I can talk about that.
Yes.
So way back in 2017, let's go. Let's rewind back to the year 2017, shall we? Which has been a few years now. Um, I got Steve to actually go to Waverly Hills. I believe we went on April 2nd. And then I had the paranormal investigation that was half a night later on that year in June. Actually, June the 9th. It was on Kim, my neighbor's birthday. And I'll get to that one later. But this initial one, Steve was not interested in staying half a night. He was definitely not interested in staying a whole night in some dilapidated old building, as he calls it. He's like, what am I going to do? I said, all right, we'll go for 2 hours and do the 2 hour tour where a guide takes you around to select parts of the building. And Waverly Hills, guys and gals, if you've never seen the outside of that building, and I can show you outside of the building, that building is huge. It is huge. And they don't take you everywhere when you go on a 2 hour investigation because there just simply would not be time enough. But if you do a half night or full night investigation, a guide will take you to certain areas and leave you or leave your group for a certain amount of time so that you can take your cameras and your other pieces of equipment. That's something else you don't get to do on the 2 hour when you can take pictures, and you can take video, but you're not supposed to bring a bunch of like EVP equipment, voice recorders, all of that stuff because they just simply don't have time for you to utilize all that. But I did have, I believe I had my phone with me. I believe I took the pictures with my phone. It could have been my digital camera, but I want to say was my phone. So me and Steve went April 2nd, 2017, and we started this tour. And, they took us around and they took us in the death tunnel or the body chute or whatever you want to call it. They took us there for a short time. We didn't really get to investigate. We basically stood midways in this death tunnel, and the guide talked to us and told us, hey, this is where they brought the dead bodies out. And the reason why they did that is so that the other patients in the hospital that were suffering with TB would not see all of these bodies being carted out because they believed, and I believe it too, that it was detrimental to their mental health. Some of these people recovered from TB, some of them did not. Some of them unfortunately passed away in the hospital. Um, but they believed in keeping their mental state, at high. They didn't want anybody getting depressed. They also believed that taking these people, they would roll the beds of these people that couldn't get out of bed. They were so sick they couldn't get out of bed out on the rooftop to get sun every day I guess unless it was raining or storming or it was cold outside, but on nice, warm, sunny days, they would cart these people's beds out. And there are pictures, if you go looking, of all these beds out on the roof of Waverly Hills, where these people could get sunlight, fresh air, because they believed that it was healthy for them. And I'm sure in a lot of ways it was healthy to them and probably
Yeah.
kept some people from passing away quicker than they would have had they not gotten this.
I
Because
think
there
they
was,
also, used sun lamps on them too, right, Dana?
yeah, I believe so. But there was another thing that I did not know about TB. And some of you may know this already, but I did not know this until we went on that tour at Waverly Hills. Was that some patients, I believe the TB would cause in some patients scarring in the brain tissue, lesions in the brain
Mhm.
tissue, and that would lead to mental disorders.
Yeah.
And some of the patients became violent. So there was a certain floor where they had to separate these patients from the rest of the patients. And they told us that some of these patients unfortunately became very violent.
Yeah. It's a
That they,
brutal thing.
yeah, it not only, so a lot of people think, well, it only affected the lungs or whatever. No, it could affect every system in the body, including the brain
Yeah.
in some cases. This was a very vicious disease.
Mhm.
And, I am so glad that, due to medical success and medical improvements and enhancements, that really for now we are not plagued by TB
Yeah.
anymore. But back in the day, there wasn't a whole lot they could do about TB, but hospitalize people and hope for the best, basically. And so Steve and I went and I took, several pictures. I didn't really see anything while I was there. I didn't see any orbs. I didn't see any kind of entities. Um, but I still enjoyed the experience. I don't think Steve enjoyed it as much as I did. I think he probably thought it was boring. Um, he says we're walking around an old building, Dane. That's it. He says we're paying these people to walk around an old building and hear stories. Um, but when I came home that weekend, I decided to actually bring up my pictures that I had taken on the computer because I just wanted to see them big on the computer and say, hey, I wonder if I missed anything, just with the naked eye, you know. So I was cycling through my pictures and I came across one of the pictures where we were in, I guess, what you would call a cafeteria area. When it was a TB hospital, this was the cafeteria where they made the lunches for the patients. And you can clearly see you can't see me and Steve because we were standing in back and I was taking pictures, but you can see our guide who's talking and telling us a story, and you can see some of our group gathered around her, and you can see a guy in a hoodie kind of looking at his phone, and I guess he's listening to the guide, but behind him and behind the guide there is a woman who doesn't have a modern hairstyle. She doesn't appear to have modern clothes. And upon further inspection, and I had several people look at this picture, and somebody told me about the hat. I didn't even notice the hat. But if you look closely, the woman appears to be holding a hat in front of her that's got a ribbon coming off of it. That hat is not a modern hat.
Yeah.
So I was curious. I went back and I looked at 1920s hairstyles, which in the 1920s, TB was a thing. It was a really big thing. And I am not kidding you guys and gals. The hairstyle that the woman had in my picture appeared to be a 1920s hairstyle. Her hat appeared to be a 1920s hat that women would wear. And I could see the collar of her either dress or shirt. That was not modern either. It was definitely not 2017 fashion
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. So I was kind of shocked at seeing this. And I said, "Hey, Steve," because he was back in the living room and I was back here on the computer looking at these photos. I said, "Come here a minute." And so he came back here. She said, "What do you want me to see?" I said, "Look at this picture." I said, "Do you remember this woman being in our group at Waverly Hills?" And his eyes got big and his skin turned kind of paler than Steve's skin normally is. And he said, "No, Dana, I don't remember her." And he said, "You're creeping me out. I'm going back in the living room." So that was the effect it had on Steve. um, I was just intrigued. I was like, "Oh man, I captured something." I was like, I got something on film. I got proof here." So what I want to do is I want to share with you guys and gals that photo right now. So let me bring it up and then I'm going to share my screen real quick here. Give me just 1 second here. And this was the only picture of an entity that I got. So I'm going to show y'all the regular picture first, and then I'm going to show you the one that's blown up here. So let's share my screen now. So this is the regular picture. Okay. You can see the two girls to the left there. You can see the guide standing there with the flashlight. You can see the guy in the hoodie behind her. But between her and the guy in the hoodie, how many of y'all see a woman in the background there?
I've already seen this. You showed this to me. It spooked me out.
Yeah, I forgot that I had showed Candace that. Um, but does anybody else see the woman standing just in the doorway there behind the guide and the guy in the hoodie? She's like,
Just from looking at it from this point of view without you even pointing it out. Like, let's say this was just a picture. You say, "Oh, I took this picture at Waverly Hills." Just by first glance of it, just seeing that person that's in between the hooded guy and the tour guide, I
mm-hmm.
would be thinking, was that person possessed? Not knowing that it was somebody that wasn't
Yeah,
really there. I was like, is that somebody that's possessed? Oh, Chris.
Chris kind of looks like Anne Frank.
It does from this, from far away.
Kinda, yeah, yeah, based on pictures of Anne Frank, yeah. Um, but I can
Wait till
show
you see this
y'all.
blowed up. This is really
Yeah,
freaky.
yeah, I will show y'all the blowed up version where I haven't done any kind of enhancements to it other than blowing it up and drawing a red outline around the entity. So let's go back here. I'm just making sure. There's a picture of Steve too. Steve was always looking. I'll show you all these other pictures here in just 1 sec. Um, and maybe you guys will see something. Now, this one is a little pixelated because it was extremely blown up. But let me share my screen again. Oh, world. Okay. Let me try this again because I don't know what it was doing. Um, Let's try share screen again. There we go. So this one's a little pixelated, but you can see she's right here. You can see the hat right there with the ribbon on it. It's right
Does it
here.
look like she's got, like Harry Potter type frames on?
It does appear that she's got glasses on. Yeah. And this is the color of her dress or shirt right here. Here is her hair. Her
She's got it
hair is,
parted down the side, don't she?
mhm, yeah. Definitely does not look like any of the other hairstyles of people that were,
Is this in a doorway, Dana, or is it in
yeah,
a
there was
window?
actually, I believe that was the doorway coming in to that cafeteria area. And so we were all kind of in a semicircle around the guide. It was not me, TJ. Trust me, I was the one taking the pictures. So it was not me.
Dana, she just split up into 2 people and
Yeah, I cloned myself and yeah.
but you know that now that he mentions it, it does look like you a little bit. Like the hair. I think it's the split in the
Mhm,
hair because you keep your hair, like, kind of pulled
yeah.
back. No, but it
Yeah.
looks like she is holding is that the hat that
Yeah, I believe this is the hat right here that I'm putting my mouse cursor
that's a
on.
big hat.
Mhm. With a ribbon on it.
'Cause
And it
I
was
can see, like, it's like a bowler type, like those, like, 20 hats, kinda like a bowler woman's hat.
mhm.
It's what it looks like to me.
And it appears that this might be a dress that she's got on, and this is the white collar
And it's
right
got the
here.
collar on it, yeah.
Mhm. And she does seem to, she appears to me to be observing us. Like, who are these people? What are they doing here?
She's like, "What the hell y'all doing?" That's what she looks like.
Christmas, maybe it's school.
Yeah, I was thinking about the, um, about so what y'all doing here? Y'all disturbing my sleep. No, just
TJ
ignore
says TJ says it's still a creepy shot though. Yes, indeed, it is.
yeah, especially if you didn't notice her on your, trip, because I mean, it's not like you're,
No,
like, with 100 people or anything like that,
no,
it's
we had a pretty small group actually. Um, and I don't know if it's because she was a spiritual entity. I didn't see her with the naked eye when I was taking the pictures.
does it kinda look like down below the hat, like she's kind of, like, fading out a little bit?
Mm,
Or
a
is that
little bit.
somebody
Yeah,
that might
I
be that
can't.
person's shoulder. I can't
Mhm.
tell.
Yeah,
But
and she looks, I mean, and I've heard this said actually by guides at Waverly that the spirits will usually either not have any color or not much color to the to whatever they are. And
yeah,
she doesn't appear to have really deep colors. It does look sort of grayish.
it does.
Um, and
Odd.
I know this is pixelated, but the mouth looks kind of funny.
Yeah.
The eyes look funny. Um, there-
Looks like she is a little sick. Doesn't it look like like her the way she's just, like, holding her face is like she's just, like, kinda sad or something,
Mhm,
or not feeling well or something?
right. Yeah, I did
That's
notice
just what I
that.
feel from it.
Um, TJ, you can't see the hat. Well, this one is a little pixelated because I did blow it up, but the hat
Yeah.
again
She's
is
holding it by her face,
right here. Yeah, you can see it start at the corner of her face.
and it
Um,
kinda goes into that guy's that
the guy
gray
in
sweat
the
yeah.
hoodie. Yeah. So I'm going to show you one more of this particular scene here. Uh, just give me one second here. Let me go back. On that other one. Okay. So I'm going to share this other one here. And this is merely where I've got her circled. So if you didn't see her on first glance, you can kind of see where I've got a red
Yeah.
outline around her.
She's just, like, standing in that doorway, isn't she?
Mhm.
So strange. And look at this person that's standing by the other door. This blonde-haired,
This
curly-haired
girl
lady.
right here,
It's
yeah,
like she's looking that way, like, see how her head is, like, you can see it's, like, in motion, like she swung it that way? It's like
yeah.
she's seen or heard something over there.
And it's possible she may have heard a noise. She may have even seen a glimpse of this
Could've.
person or entity. And you can kind of even see the grayish color more when it's zoomed back out.
Yeah.
Um, she almost looks like a black and white photograph to
Mhm.
me, or something of that nature. Like if somebody had taken a picture from that time period and didn't, of course, have color film.
Mhm.
That's how that would
So
look.
strange.
TJ said, "Just had thunder, spooky." And you can also see that people have broken into Waverly Hills and done a lot of graffiti, but I to tell you the honest truth, they shouldn't deface the building,
No.
but some of that graffiti kinda creeped me out as we
Yeah.
were walking through the halls and stuff like that. Somebody has drawn a ghost. It almost looked like the Pac-Man ghost or something in the background, like, um, when people would put their initials and said, "So and so was here," and just, um, different things,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's my, that's my 3 pictures of that, what I believe to be an apparition of some sort. Um, Now, again, it will not hurt my feelings if you think I'm full of crap and that that's not anything. I've had people tell me, "That was somebody in your group, Dana. That was somebody at Waverly Hills that was dressed in a costume." I've heard, different
I
things.
mean, you are the one you and Steve both were there. I mean, you are the ones that were there.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that you were observing everything around you because when you go in a
Oh,
place like that, you are like observing who's with you. You're taking a mental note because you want to see stuff. So you're going to want to know who's with you that's real, so
right.
that you can if you do see something, then you know that it's not, somebody that's because you are always taking a mental note. Because I've been to a place like that, and that's what you do. You just kind, and I mean, Dana probably has been there more than once, right? And
Yeah,
you're probably
one
taking like a mental note of who's around you.
mhm,
So if you
uh,
don't recognize her, then there you go.
TJ says it's like Oculus where the camera sees what's there, but not the naked eye.
Yeah,
Exactly. It had to be something like that, that I just couldn't see it with the naked eye. But I believe, like Candace, that the blonde haired girl must
yeah,
have heard something or seen a shadow, something, because she literally was turned in her
and
body
you can
was
see
turned.
where her head is in motion. You can see like whenever stuff streaks, like if there's in motion when you capture it. So she had just like turned her head. You could see that her head is being turned right as Dana's taking that shot, and that entity is there. I believe it. I think that it is something. I think
Now,
that Dana would know if it was something or not.
I can share a few more pictures from that visit. That you're probably not going to see any entities in there. You might see something. You might see something that I missed. If you did, please point it out because I would love to see it. Or try to see whatever you're seeing. If it's okay with Candace, I'll
Yeah,
show some of
yeah.
those other pictures. So let's see. Let's go. now. All right. So let's share the screen again here. And I'm just going to cycle through these pictures. I'll try to leave it on each picture for long enough for y'all to take it in. Some of these, see, that was just a picture of us leaving a room. You can see the guy in front of me there, that is moving into frame. Now, this area over here, you see a doorway and you see a shelf. And I'm sorry, the picture is kind of blurry. I have other pictures of this from my later investigation that is better. But what this is a photo of two sisters who were both stricken with TB, and they had adjoining rooms
Thank
in
you.
Waverly
I'm
Hills.
sorry. I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay, Candace. Um, And these two sisters, I believe one of them got well, and the other, unfortunately passed away in the hospital. So people will leave little trinkets and tokens for the sister that passed away, um, in this room. Um, and so this is kind of like a memorial to her. Um, this picture here is inside the death tunnel or the body chute. And you can, the reason people are looking towards me is because I kind of stumbled a little bit and made a noise. So some people are looking towards me, as clumsy as I am. That's of course, I got in the body chute and stumbled around. You can see our guide pointing and showing us where, like, the concrete ramp where they would wheel the bodies down. We are about midway in the body chute, right here. And there are also steps as well going down into the body chute. Very old, you can tell by looking at this. Um, Let's see. Chris, you say if I were to run into every single person from our group from the Myrtle Plantation tour we took, I wouldn't recognize any of them because I typically don't pay attention to stuff like that. And some people don't, Chris. They don't. But you said, but that image of that woman does stand out and doesn't look like it belongs there. Yeah, exactly. Um, so to go back to these pictures here, we'll go to the next one. That, of course, is one that I just showed y'all a few minutes ago of the entity in the background there. There's the one where I've actually circled her. Um, there's another one from the body chute. This here is actually where they would put dead bodies. It was like a morgue, essentially. Um, And I used to hear that they would allow people to get on these things that pulled out, and they would close you up in there. And I heard that people had some crazy experiences. No one got asked to get in there and no one volunteered. So nobody in our group actually done that, but that's what those are. This is the outside corner of Waverly Hills, and you can see the gargoyle there. I really like these gargoyles. I tried to take as many pictures of the gargoyles as I could. There is me standing outside of Waverly Hills in 2017. You can see that's just a portion of the building. You can actually see there how large that building is. Um, these are, of course, the tables or whatever that they would put bodies on there, I guess, when they were doing, autopsies and stuff like that. Um, I'm trying to remember if this was outside room 502. I want to say it was. And the room 502 has significance. Yeah, you can see somebody's written 502. So this was outside of room 502. Now, the story behind room 502 was that a nurse hung herself outside of that room. And the story goes that the reason why she committed suicide was that she was in love with a doctor that was married to someone else. This doctor got her pregnant. And when she came to him to tell him she was pregnant with his child, he dismissed her. He refused to take care of her. He's like, basically, you got pregnant, it's your fault. You weren't careful, so you're going to have to deal with the consequences. I'm a married man. I'm not going to take care of you. I'm not going to take care of this baby. Um, and the story goes that she hung herself right there in that doorway. There is another story, I believe, of someone who jumped out a window right across from that room. And I heard that this was a nurse who had contracted TB and could not stand the thought of suffering with TB and possibly dying of TB, and so committed suicide before that could happen. Yeah, I cannot taking responsibility. How original. You're right, TJ. Um, TJ says if I went on one of those investigations, I'd want to with a private group so random people are out of the way of accidentally getting on audio and photo, etc. Well, then you would probably want to go on one of those either half night or full night paranormal
Yeah.
like investigations, TJ. That would be your best bet. If you ever did want to go to Waverly Hills or one of these other places. Okay, so more pictures to come. There is another that's just a portion again of the outside of Waverly Hills. That's just one indication of how enormous this building is. You can see some more gargoyles up there at the top of the building. Now, these things here, these gurneys or whatever, I think they told us that these were not part of the original hospital. These are things that they brought in for the haunted house,
Yeah.
and they were kind of just left behind there. There's a shot of Louisville. You can see the lights of Louisville. You can see some construction equipment there. We were actually on the roof of Waverly Hills at this point, and I took that shot. Um, Here's us going into another room. You can see how really run down and, in disrepair the building is. You can see stuff coming off the walls, off the doors, all of that. In fact, it's kind of creepy. It looks like something's been clawing at this door. That is I think that's we were in a dark room, and I think that's Steve right here. And you can see his iPhone is on. This is outside of Waverly Hills on the roof. You can see us kind of, some of our group walking around up there. This is outside of one of the rooms. You can see there's another person in a hoodie because it was cold that evening. This was early April, so it was cold. You can see some more graffiti on the wall. Somebody had written drugs, and I don't know what that is. Um, there's Steve trying to look horrified inside of Waverly Hills, standing by a window there. Now, I thought that I saw a face there in the glass. So that hence the circle there. Now, Steve said that wasn't anything, but I can kind of see what looks like two eyes, a nose, and a mouth there. But maybe I was just trying too hard. Y'all can let me know what y'all think. There was a more close up shot. Not real good. It's almost too
Looks like a
pixelated.
tiger's face or something.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Which I see faces within like patterns and stuff like that anyway. Do you do that? Like look at the floor and see like
Mhm.
faces and stuff. I see that a lot.
Now there's Steve looking horrified yet again in another area of Waverly Hills there. There's outside of room 502. And I did notice this. There is a line right about here that looked oddly to me like it might have been part of a noose. I don't know. Again, maybe I was trying too hard. But you can clearly see that it says 502 there. There is a window right here, which I'm assuming that was the window that supposedly the nurse jumped out of. This is supposed to be the area where the other nurse hung herself. And so you can see people inside room 502 taking pictures. You see a guy getting ready to go in 502. This is actually inside room 502 here. There were evidently toilets there at one point in time. There's those tables that look like autopsy tables. I think this was an operating room because you can see the remains of a big light there, and you can see everybody in our group. Again, you don't see that. You don't see that woman that was in that one picture. Does anybody see her? I don't see her. But I took a shot in here because it seemed interesting and creepy. Um, this was another shot from within 502. There's another window there. There's me. Steve took that picture of me grinning from ear to ear in this haunted place. Um, there's another picture of me. We're still in the operating room area at that point. You can see people kind of milling around and taking pictures in there. I don't know. That might be Steve in front of me, but I'm not 100% sure at this point. But we were getting ready to go into another area. There's that close up shot of the entity again. And that's basically that's all the pictures I have from the first visit early in April 2017. Um, TJ says the Conjuring House is $960 a night, Thursday through or Thursday through Sunday, up to 6 people, 1,280 a night, Friday to Saturday for 8 people.
There you go.
So you'd have to take up a collection, I guess, before you went there. And Chris
Mm-mm.
says there's a Facebook group called Things with Faces, and it's just posted images people have found where an inanimate object looks like it has a face.
Yeah, I'm a member of that.
I may have to consider joining that if you
I
can.
forget what it's called, but it's called something. But it's where you like look at just a wall and you can see a face, like if there's a pattern there or something like that. It's pretty neat. Some of the stuff they post clouds, they post like carpets and like they've spilt coffee and you can see a face. It's really neat.
Um, Now, what I'm going to do is because I don't want to monopolize the whole conversation with just me showing my stuff
Okay.
and things like that. So I want to give Candace ample opportunity to share her stories as well. And because I've been drinking so much liquid here, I got to run to the restroom. So I'm going to let Candace uh, give us another one of her stories. And I'm going to remove myself temporarily.
Well, I'm just gonna reiterate what I said the other day. I popped in, I think it was Wednesday night when Chris and Dana were I think it was the Apples and Oranges show. They were talking about paranormal and stuff like that, and I was feeling bad that night, so I was just, trying to rest, but I woke up, I took a nap and woke up and just decided that I wanted to hop on for a little bit and tell a few of my experiences and stuff on there. So I did that on Wednesday. So if you've not watched that show, go back and watch that one as well because they tell some really good stories. I went back and rewatched the whole thing, and Dana and Chris tell some pretty spooky stories, and I told some of my experiences, and I'm just going to kind of reiterate what I said on that show with whether you believe or not, that's totally fine. I think everybody has their own, thoughts on the paranormal, supernatural, just things that are not of this world. Whether you believe in it, whether you don't, that's perfectly fine. That's your choice. I'm going to be open and honest with you, and the people that was on that show, is watching that show or has watched the show already. They've already heard me say this, but I'm going to be vulnerable. This is not something that I share with everybody, but I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't care to share it with people because it's not something I should hide. Um, I always was afraid of people judging me, but you get to a certain age where you're like, ah, you really don't care anymore what people think. They're going to think one way of you, you know, or not anyway. But I have always known that I had a gift. I am somebody who can feel things, feel energies. Um, I can feel people. I sometimes see things happen before they happen. I've done this all my life. As long as I can remember, as a little kid, I can remember having flashes in my mind, and that's how they come to me. It's not something that I can just on command do. It's just I will be sitting there and I will have like images, like a flash, like flashes of images in my mind of things, and then they happen, and I remember that happening as a little bitty girl and not understanding it because up until that point, I was thinking to myself, I always remember thinking this, I don't ever hear anybody talking about how you're supposed to see stuff sometimes before it happens. Like a fight or an argument or something like that. I could feel it and I could see it. I could see flashes or, somebody was coming to visit or something like that. It's just the weirdest things I could see happen before they happened. Um, and Chris has been with me long enough that he knows that this is something that I've been gifted with. Um, I knew Chris was going to propose to me before he did, and that breaks his heart. But I had I had the flash in my mind, and I seen it. It's nothing that I can control. Um, but I've never trusted myself even before when I see this stuff happening. I don't trust myself. So, like I told Chris, I was like, even though I knew that you were going to do that, you were going to propose to me the way you did, I didn't think it was real. I didn't think it was really going to happen. You know, Even knowing that stuff I see sometimes comes true. But anyway, with that out of the way, I have always, like I said, been able to feel things, and I've always felt sensitive to things. So I've had a lot of experiences growing up and in my life, a lot of experiences that I can't explain. And I'm going to kind of take it up a little bit. I was a teen when this happened. Now, Dana has heard this story. I could tell you all kinds of stories that's happened. But this one was a very big one that happened in my life that really shaped me as a person, because this was a very, very scary, um, it wasn't all scary. It was also very, let me tell the story. So, I grew up living in apartments. We had a very nice apartment growing up, and um, but it was always my family's dream to own a home, to have a home of our own. Um, and my mom and dad worked very hard, and we finally got us a house built. It was a beautiful home, and we were very proud of it, and very proud to have somewhere that we could call our own. And as I got to be an adult and bought my very first home, is the one that we're living in, I understand that the pride that goes into that is it's very life changing. It's just something that's just wonderful. So, we were proud of it. But our home was destroyed by a mudslide. My brother, my dad narrowly escaped it. It was a very big thing. It was life changing. Me and my family were split into two groups. My dad and my brother were um, staying with his parents, my grandma and grandpa, and me and my mom were staying with her parents, my grandma and grandpa. So for about 6 months, we didn't have that family unity that we always had. We never spent nights away from each other unless we were going to stay all night with a family member or something like that, or my brother. So it was very hard on us. So we finally got an opportunity to where we found an apartment. It was a big house in town. Had a garage down below it, and it was a two apartments. They had split the house in two, and it was two apartments. No one lived in the other side, so it was just us. And from the very beginning, I did not want to move into this place because we all knew what it was. And just from the looks of it, I mean, even Dana would probably say, "Wow, Candace, I don't think I wanted to move there." Okay, so a funeral home was right next door to this. Okay, so this home was very old, probably built in the early 1900s, and it had once been used for the embalming space for that local funeral home that was next door to it. And we know this because we knew the people who worked within the funeral home, who had owned the funeral home. And we were told this. And there was also vintage hearses in our backyard, like from the 60s, from the 70s. It was very creepy. I mean, you look out your back window and right there's a hearse up to your window. It was very, very strange, very odd. The house just was weird. We had family who had lived in the home before we moved in, that we later found out that they moved out because of experiences that they had experienced. So, but when we first moved in, I was a little, put off, but everything was fine at first. And it actually began to feel nice. First of all, it's nice that I'm with my family again. It's nice that we're that family unit that we had missed for so many months. We've been through this traumatic event, and it just seemed like a lifetime. 6 months seemed like 6 years that we had been apart. So I was finally back with my mom, my dad, my brother again, and we were there. And so it started to feel nice, and everything was fine until about maybe 3 months in. Um, I had switched rooms with my brother because I had taken the back room next to my parents' room. And it was a huge room, and that's the reason why I wanted it. But it just the thought of those hearse being behind, in my back window and stuff, it kind of put me off. I didn't want it anymore. And I kind of wanted to be up front because my brother's room was nice too. It had wood floors and had big, nice picture window. and I just wanted to change, and he kind of wanted to be back there in the back room anyway, next to my parents' room. So I was like, okay, well that's fine. So we switched rooms, and right outside my door was the little hall, and there was the bathroom, and then like a laundry room. But something strange about that laundry room, because there was a actual window that was opened up, and it led into like you would look in the window, and there was my parents' room. So it's strange. I don't know if they had built that back part on at one point, or they just stuck a window there. I don't know. I don't know why it was there. But it stayed open. Um and everything was fine. I really liked my room, but I did not have my bed at the time, my bed frame. So we hadn't moved it. So my bed was actually on the floor. And I was liking it, and I hadn't had my dresser that I put my TV on. So my TV was down on the floor at the time, and then my mattress box spring was down on the floor. And I remember laying there, and I was feeling good watching TV, and I heard some noise coming from next door, but there was nobody next door. Nobody lived there. It was empty. And it felt, and it heard like sounded like it was somebody talking. And that kind of creeped me out a little bit, but I ended up going to sleep and everything was fine. And that was okay for maybe a few days. And I was just waiting for I was really eager to get out of that floor. I wanted my bed, I wanted my dresser, but they hadn't moved it there yet. And I was just ready for it. So, because I had been sleeping in another bed in where my brother's room was. And we just kept that bed in there and kept that dresser in there, because it wasn't mine. It was my mom and them's, and they had put it together for my brother. And I had just laid in there. They said, "Well, we'll get your stuff out of storage and bring your stuff to the new room." So I just wanted to say that, because you were thinking, was you sleeping in the floor? And no, it's because my stuff hadn't been brought from storage yet. So we everything was doing okay, and in 2 or 3 days, I hadn't heard anything from next door yet. And my brother's here. He probably can remember this.
Yeah, I thought
He's
your
sitting in there.
brother was in
So I laid down like normal, turned my TV on, everything was fine. And I remember getting ready to doze off. And I always put the cover. I don't do this anymore, but growing up, I always put the cover above my head. I don't know why. I always did. And I remember putting the cover over my head and laying there and just getting ready to doze off, when all of a sudden, Dana, and I could feel the fingers, I could feel the hand. It's just like if somebody took their hand, because my hair come with it. They grabbed the sheet and my hair that was, had my hair loose, and they pulled the sheet, just went like it went like that, and just flung off of me. When it did that, I was just in shock, pure shock. And I jumped up, I grabbed my cover and ran to the living room. My dad was laying on the bed, on the couch, and he was asleep. And I remember taking this sheet and putting it over me so tight, and I got like in the fetal position. And I remember sitting on the cover, like in a ball. Like I didn't want any opening of this sheet, because I was so scared. And if my brother's watching, my mom is probably watching too. And I remember the next morning, I must have fell asleep during the night, and I remember waking up. My mom's like, "Candice, what are you doing in here? Why are you wrapped up?" I never forget that. And I remember getting up, and I wouldn't tell her what happened. I did not want to say anything about what happened in that house. I remember when we left, I told her what happened. For some reason, I just didn't want to talk about it in that house. And this is where it gets real strange, Dana. The hearing the stuff next door, like talking, like, whenever somebody's next door and you could hear like a muffled, like baritone. That's what I was hearing next door, but there was nobody there. And then the cover thing, but still in my mind, and my mom, this is what she was saying to me. "Well, Candice, sometimes we go to sleep, like get ready to fall right into sleep and you kick, and that's probably what you've done. You've like threw the cover. I said, Mom, no, I felt a hand. I felt it grab my hair. I
Mhm.
felt it, and the cover just flung off of me. And she was just trying to put me at ease, and I don't think she believed it, just overreacting. I had a tendency to overreact. I'm not gonna lie about that. I'd get very scared. Um, but I tried to believe her, and everything went back to normal. Uh, Started feeling okay. Nothing was felt off anymore. My bed had arrived, my dresser. She said, "Well, once we get your room," because I remember her saying this, "Once we get your room together, you're gonna feel okay again." I said, "Okay." And I did. Once my bed came, my dresser, and got my stuff nice the way I wanted. I put my Aerosmith poster up. I'll never forget that on my door. I was really liking my room. I was the whole spook factor of it. I guess I was starting to get kind of used to, and I played it off. I said, well, maybe that was me that just did that to myself. Even though, I felt that there was an explanation for it. I was just, well, maybe it was a TV or something, that I heard next door. But then, that's just something crazy that I knew probably wasn't possible because there's nobody living there. But, you tell yourself this stuff, trying to
Mhm.
make yourself feel better. And everything was fine until probably the last month that we lived in that house. And this is where all the strange stuff, real strange stuff, started to happen. And I remember telling Dana this. So, my dad was not in church at the time. He was not somebody who ever went to church. He grew up in church, but he wasn't a religious person. My dad during this point had started to have nightmares. He started to talk in his sleep, and that's why he was sleeping on the sofa. And you would hear him talking to himself. He was asleep, and he was like talking during his sleep, and stuff he was saying was biblical, and it was really strange. And but you never put two and two together. But he was saying stuff like quotes out of the Bible. It was really, really strange. But it wasn't that strange because a friend of his had started getting him into going to church because my dad was going through a hard time dealing with what happened to our home, dealing with just the stresses of what had happened to us and why where we were at this point. And we just thought he was going through a hard time. Well, I remember waking up one night, and it was early in the morning. My dad was asleep, my mom was asleep, and my brother was asleep. And it's one of those moments when you just are barely awake and you're wanting to go to the bathroom, but you're still
Yeah.
asleep. You're like, because as soon as you lay back down, you're going to go back to sleep. It's one of those moments. So you're in a daze. And I remember waking up like that, and I'm still halfway asleep, got one eye shut, one eye open. And I remember going to the bathroom and using the bathroom. And I remember walking back, and I look, in that hall, that room that's got that window that goes into my parents' room. On that particular night, my dad was not on the sofa. He was actually with my mom, and they were asleep in there. And it was one of the rare nights that he was in there. And I remember passing it and looking and going to my bed. And as soon as I got ready to lay down, like my knee was already on the bed, my eyes shot open because it dawned on me what I had just seen. What I had seen whenever I got up to go to the bathroom, and what I had seen when I came back. And I was in such a daze that it didn't dawn on me until my senses had come to me. And I swung around, and it wasn't there. But what I had seen when I got up to use the restroom, it looked like fog, Dana. When you're driving down the road on a foggy night, and it's low lying on the road, and it was just a puff of like fog in that room, in that little room that had that. It was like a laundry room or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that had that window, and it was just kind of sitting like kind of moving there. And when I came back out and I looked there, I seen it going into my mom and dad's room. And you know, I was in that state of where I was kind of awake and asleep, and it didn't dawn on me what I was seeing, that this is something strange I'm seeing. But when it came to, because it like shocked me again, you know, if my hair would have turned white, I would have understood, because that's kind of, it's like a bolt shock that came over me. And I remember just like being freaked out. I was like, what just happened? You
Mm-hmm.
know, what was that? And I remember standing there for a minute, and then fear became scared for my family. Like, what is this? You know, because you know, even though it felt like it was something supernatural, this could be something else too. I don't know, some kind of gas or something. I mean, you're,
Right.
you know, you're scared. So I remember running to my brother's room, which you have to go through my brother's room to get to my parents' room. My brother was asleep. I looked in there. I seen nothing, nothing. And I was freaked out. So I just went to my room. I shut the door, turned on the lights, turned on something on TV that I liked. And I remember staying up for the rest of the night. And the next morning, I didn't care if I was in that house or not. I was like, Mom, this is what I seen. And I got scared, and I've been up all night. And she was like, Candice, honey, you was probably half, you know, my mom always tried to rationalize everything.
Mhm.
You were half asleep. It was probably just, you know, something, water in your eyes. It was something that you thought you seen. All right. So it gets even stranger, Dana. And you know this because I've told you, and I think you probably remember this. My dad, like I said, was having a hard time. And he had just started getting into going to our church. My dad had never been a religious person. He believed in God, but he was never religious. Um, but he kind of became what they call on fire for the Lord. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. It's whenever new Christians become really, really involved. They want to learn. They're just on fire for learning. And so he went to our local secondhand store and bought a ton of Bibles. Okay, bought like 10 of them. Because he wanted to have every version that he could get. You know, there's different versions of the Bible, like different, like New King James, and just the King James. There's international. There's just different types of Bibles with like student Bibles and stuff. And he also wanted to give these Bibles to some of his brothers. You know, he wanted to share the good news, I guess is what you can say. And, you know, this is something strange for us because we just was never used to seeing this from my dad. We were happy, you know, but it was something very new because we'd never seen him react like this before. So I'm not going to say any names out of respect for the families. I'm not going to mention anybody, no businesses. I'm not going to mention the name of the business. I'm not going to mention where this happened, you know, other than it happened in my hometown back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. So it was in the early 90s. It wasn't the 80s, 90s. It was early 90s. Um, so this happened in the early 90s at a local business downtown. That's all I'm going to say about it. But there was something really awful happened in my hometown back in the early 90s, probably around 92, 93, where a woman was slain at a local business. She had trusted somebody who she had befriended. She was an older woman. She had, you know, trusted this young man who she became friends with. You know, he was a loner, didn't have any friends, and she felt sorry for him. And she made the mistake of trusting him enough to allowing him to come in this local business while she was there alone. And he brutally slayed her in a horrific way, just a way that you would never even think of. I mean, it's something just out of horror movie. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Well, apparently, this lady had lived in the very apartment that we were occupying at the time. This same apartment where I'm seeing all this stuff in. Um, at the time of her murder. Um, her place of business was right down the road, and she apparently would walk there every day for work. And she apparently had lived there where we had lived. Now, I never felt like she was there. I never felt anything bad. If she was there, then I believe that she would have been a good entity up until a point to where things started getting strange, and I did believe that she was there. Because my dad, amongst all these Bibles that he had bought, opened the first one up. He just sitting on the sofa. I'll never forget it. He opens this Bible up, Dana, and I've told you this. I don't know if you remember or not,
Yeah,
but
I heard.
there her name was written in that Bible, and it chills up all of our spines. I mean, here he is with this Bible that's got this woman's name in it, who lived in that apartment, and she was a religious woman. So, and I didn't know anybody else by that name. So if it wasn't her name, it still was strange. If it wasn't her Bible, it still was strange because that was her name. And it was just really odd. We was like, oh, wow, that's really strange. It's kind of like she was on the other side saying, hey, everything's gonna be okay. Well, we were finally getting ready to move. And it was actually the day that we were going to be moving out of that apartment. We still had our food there, and I went to get me a can of raviolis out of this huge metal cabinet. And it was probably about around 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And right underneath the big old huge cabinets, they're probably 1,000-pound cabinets. I mean, they were full of canned food. They were huge metal, old fashioned metal cabinets. Underneath it was the stove and the counters and stuff. I went to reach to get the can of raviolis and the pot that I was going to put it in. And I put the pot down underneath the cabinet on the stove. And I reach to turn on the stove when all of a sudden I hear this loud bang. And I open my eyes and I'm standing square in the middle of the kitchen floor. I had just been at that stove reaching to turn on the stove. And next thing I know, I open my eyes and I'm in the middle of that floor of the kitchen floor, just standing like this. And when I open my eyes, I stay like that, and it's deathly quiet. My parents and my brother was sitting in the living room, and after probably about 5-6 seconds had passed by, I hear my mom scream. She screamed at my dad, and she said, "I can't look, Candice. Go see Candice." Because I was just standing there. I wasn't making a noise. She knew that I had been crushed because she knew what I was doing. I was talking to her as I was putting this, on the stove. And she just knew I'd been crushed. And my dad, I'll never forget him coming around the corner there and seeing me. He just looked at me, what happened? And she said, is she okay? I said, yeah. And my mom she was just elated that I was alive, that I was okay, because she had just knew that. How I ended up in the middle of that floor, I don't know. I told Mom, I said, it felt like I just like floated up back there, like somebody pulled me back. So how that happened, I don't know. It's awful strange that, my dad had found this Bible of this woman that had once, lived there, that got done a really bad way. Do I think it was her? It could have been. It could have been. But
I think it was. I think she saved your life.
I really think that if it was somebody, that it was her. Do I think that there was trickster spirits in that house? Yes, I do. Because even though we didn't get harmed they were playing mind games with us, and I
Mm.
do believe that house was haunted. I really do. After we moved out, some cousins of ours had lived there beforehand, and they had had terrible experiences, so that's why they had to move out. And apparently, a lot of people who lived there had had experiences, and they finally just, stopped renting it to people. But it was a weird, weird situation. It was my brother said he remembered the noise of that big cabinet. I mean, it was Dana. How I ended up where I did, I don't know. It was a very scary thing. Um, but yeah, I believe it was haunted. I really do, and I think that by spirits from the funeral home, I don't think so. I think that people over sensationalized, like, graveyards and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Unless
And
something bad had happened at that graveyard, I don't think most graveyards are haunted. Maybe you can still feel spirits there, I don't know. I'm very sensitive, and I have went to some graveyards, and you could feel a little something, but
mhm.
I think homes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think if a spirit is gonna inhabit a place,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a place where they once were, and if
Yeah.
something bad became of that person, that means that they're more than likely their spirit's gonna be concentrated there. It's almost like they're trapped
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, but that was a very weird time for us, and I was so happy to get out of there. I was so happy. I remember the night that we moved, it was a lunar eclipse,
Mm.
and I remember we would not go because my mom and dad had to leave, and I was there with our older cousin. He was there, and he was helping us move. We all did not want to go inside, so we stayed outside watching that lunar eclipse, and I refused to go in there. And I was just ready to get out of there, so I was happy. I was happy to be out of that house. But that experience helped shape me as a person because it was so, like, real. I had had, some stuff happen to me beforehand. I had had a lot of experiences, but this one was the first one that I really knew. I was old enough, I was in my teens. I was old enough to know that, "Hey, I'm not some little kid whose mind is playing tricks on them. This is something really strange that's happening here." So yeah, there's that story that I wanted to tell because that was a very weird weird experience for me. Um, and I'm glad that I don't have to live in that house again.
Yeah, I think I would be glad to not live in a house again if I had
Mm-mm.
experienced that. Now, I do feel like that me and Steve's house is haunted.
Yeah,
This house was built, I believe, in the 50s, as many of the houses in this neighborhood were. I think there are a few maybe brand new houses, but they're few and far between.
yeah,
Most of these houses in this neighborhood are what I would call cookie cutter houses.
yeah,
They're made about the same as the one next door to it. Um, so if Candace doesn't mind, I wanted to share some of my experiences that have occurred in this
yeah,
house since me and Steve got married. Nothing occurred back when we were dating and I used to come visit Steve. Nothing occurred that I saw or heard, but and some people might say, well, Dana, you go looking for something, you're gonna find it. But I was able to obtain a piece of equipment called a spirit box. And I actually have my spirit box here. I can actually show you guys. And people might say, and that's okay, that's just a glorified radio, Dana. That's all that is. You spent a bunch of money on a radio. But, um, hold on here. I want to get this. I have all my stuff actually in this case here. Um, some of it came in this kit in this case, and some of it I purchased separately. Now, This is my spirit box. Yes, it does have an antenna on it, but what allows you, supposedly, to hear the spirits is white noise.
Yeah.
And anybody that has done any research into activities, supernatural, paranormal activity, you know that it's easier to hear an entity when there is white noise, whether it comes from an off station radio, where it comes from a television that is off station. Does anybody remember when the stations used to go off station at midnight, and then it would do the national anthem, and then it would go shh, and it would be fuzz until the next broadcast day. We don't see much of that anymore because there's so much, like there are so many streaming services. There's cable that stays on all night and all day. There's satellite channels that stay on all night and all day. So kids now are probably not familiar with that. We are ending our broadcast day, and then, you see the jets flying, you hear the national anthem, and then it goes to fuzz, just like on Poltergeist. It just doesn't creep you out enough, that scene in Poltergeist when it goes to white noise, basically, and the little girl in Poltergeist, Carol Ann, turns around and says, "They're here." I tell you, for a simple scene, that is one of the
It
creepiest
is.
scenes in movie history that I've ever seen, is that little girl
Mm.
saying, "They're here." Because yeah, that you bet your butt they're here, and they're gonna cause some problems here. So, I have, not a lot, but I have experienced things with my, spirit box. And, this is comes from, and you probably can't see that, but it says Ghost Augustine, whereas actually where this came from. I think I actually ordered it through Amazon, but they get these from Ghost Augustine. This is ghosthuntersequipment.com, ghostaugustine.com. You can go check out these sites, and kiimeter.com. Okay. So what happens is, and I don't know if the batteries are, let me see if I can. Yeah, I bet the batteries are probably dead because I haven't used this thing in a while, so I won't actually be able to turn it on for you folks. Um, but I'm going to check the batteries and probably need to replace said batteries in this. But you have several buttons on the front of this thing, and so you turn on the power. Um, you've got volume keys where you can turn it up and down. You have it where you can switch it to AM, FM. But if you're doing this, if you want to listen to the radio, fine on it, that's fine. But that's not what I use it for. I use it to see if I can contact the spirits. This is a PSB 7 spirit box. If you do research into these, you can find there are different models of it. So you turn it on, and you can do a sweep forward or a sweep in reverse. You have a button for both of those. And I've done both a forward sweep and a reverse sweep. You can do a sweep rate. You can change the rate of, evidently, of speed that it sweeps through. And that's what you want it to be doing. While you're asking questions, you want this thing to be sweeping through the channels. Okay. So I'm going to play y'all a little snippet back in 2018. I think it was September 2018. It was night, and I decided to see if I could use my spirit box to speak with the spirits, basically. And at one point, and I'm going to play this little snippet for you, or I'm going to try to here in just a second. Hopefully, um, if I share my screen, y'all will be able to hear it. If not, um, if y'all want to contact me personally, I'll try to send this little snippet to you, but I'm going to try to play it for you. Um, let's see. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Do you know my name? Now, was anybody able to hear that?
Yeah.
You were able to hear it, Candace?
Mhm.
Okay. Um, so was anybody in the chat able to hear that? I just want to make sure before I play that again. Um, so if anybody can let me know if they just heard that where I said, "Do you know my name?" and then I cut it off at that point. And you could hear the white noise in the background going
Yeah.
that. Um, so I will play it here in a second if I don't hear anybody from the chat. Maybe everybody went to sleep or something while I was complaining about the spirit box. Uh, I remember CJ saying I remember the noise.
Yeah, the noise of that, cabinet falling.
So
Mm.
okay, so I'm not seeing anybody say yay or nay whether they heard it other than Candace told me. So let's try playing this and just listen as hard as you can to what is heard after I say, "Do you know my name?" So here we go. Do you know my name? Did you hear my name? Did you hear Dana
I
real quick?
heard something. Can you play it again?
Yep. I'll play it
I'm
again.
gonna turn my volume up. I hope it don't echo.
Do you know my name?
Dana. Yeah.
Pretty clear as a bell, isn't it, Candace?
Yeah.
And I was like, "Holy cow." Again, that was not anything that I heard when I was actually doing it. That is a recording that I did with the voice recorder.
It sounds like Steve. The voice does. That's strange too, and
Now that I think about it, yeah, and
you
Steve was
know
asleep at that time.
that because another story that I will tell, it's a short one, I'll tell it in a little bit. They mimic voices 100%.
Now, I did not know that, so
Oh,
that
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's well documented that spirits like to mimic voices. So that sounded like Steve. It had his accent, like the way he talks and everything. So if you wanna play it again
yeah,
for
I'll play it
just
one more
listen.
time.
If you know what Steve sounds like, listen to this and tell me if that doesn't sound like Steve.
Do you know my name?
That sounded like
That
that,
yeah, whenever I listen to it more than once in a row,
and you
it's
can
just
clearly tell that it's like white noise. You can
yeah.
tell that it's something within that, but they have mimicked his voice in that, and
Mm.
they've used his accent and everything. That's so weird. Because to
So they
me,
probably
Steve
have
has
heard
accent.
Steve enough to be able
Yeah,
to mimic his voice,
that's so strange.
which is
That's
even
really strange.
creepier. That kind of gives me
Yeah,
feels thinking about it.
yeah,
So TJ, I hope you're in here, and I hope that you were able to hear that. Now, whether you believe me, I don't know. Um, you know, I don't mind if you don't believe. I just wanted to share that with everybody.
yeah, and it sounded like Steve. That's even more creepier because it, makes me think about my experience of having, a spirit mimic a, somebody that I kn I knew. So,
Mm.
yeah, that makes it even creepier to me.
And there were other recordings I did, but I was not able to pick up anything like I picked up that particular night in September of 2018. And keep in mind that I went in 2017 to Waverly Hills twice. And then in 2018, I was actually, doing the spirit box stuff. I was sitting back here. My desk was over there at the time instead of right here. But I was in this same room and I was alone except for the dogs. Steve was in bed asleep because it was late at night. You guys and gals that know me and Steve know Steve. Doesn't he isn't up late normally, for one thing, unless he just, he's sick or he can't sleep for whatever reason. But so it was intriguing, but it gave me cold chills
Yeah.
to hear my name. So I was not expecting it, and it wasn't because I didn't believe. I don't know. I hadn't heard anything up until then, and then that particular night, I heard something
Yeah.
on there. And it's not to say that the spirits might not have been trying to contact me at other times. Maybe I just couldn't hear it. Maybe it wasn't coming through clearly. But that particular night, at that particular time, something came through
Yeah.
quite clearly to me and evidently to Candace as well. I was glad that she was able to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, and it sounded just like Steve to me. It did. I mean, you can clearly tell that it's the white noise static, but
Mhm.
coming through that clearly it says Dana, and it sounds like Steve saying it. That's to me makes it even more creepier because, like I said, I've had that experience. I've had that experience of where they like to mimic um, people you know. And I don't really know if it's a spirit, like a earthbound spirit that does it, or if it's like a different kind of spirit that maybe isn't earthbound, if you know what I mean. Like a
Yeah.
you know.
But I don't I don't feel like whatever this was meant me harm. They may have
Yeah.
been playing with me,
Yeah,
uh,
they like to do that, so
and playing with my head and stuff like that, just like Candace was talking about some of the spirits that she's dealt with. Um, so again, I hope that everybody that was in here at this time, we've got about 9 people in here right now. I hope that you were able to hear that, and take from that what you will. Um, I will show a few other pieces of equipment in my kit, and then I'm going to let Candace tell another story, and then probably I'll share a few things from my paranormal investigation at Waverly. And if Candace wants to share anything else, she can. But we'll definitely have another one of these
yeah.
shows. Um, so I showed the spirit box. I also have what's called a gauze meter. And when you turn this thing on, you hear that noise. Um, what will happen is, of course, if you get it close to a computer, it's going to go wild.
Yeah.
You get it close to a TV, it's going to go wild. So if you want to get a really good reading, I would suggest you not do it near computers or
Yeah.
near microwaves, televisions, all that stuff. But get in a neutral area. This needle will go wild and go all the way over in the red, supposedly when there's spiritual activity.
If there's any kind of energy around it. Yeah.
Right. And you can see if I press the button, it's just going wild there. So, yeah. It says there are two methods of measuring EMF using
EMF
this
meters, yeah.
meter. You
It's
can
that
press,
thing I think that the Ghostbuster has whenever they
yeah.
go up to the thing and it kinda yeah.
So you can do it two ways. You can press the button on the side panel briefly. This measures 1 mg to 10 mg in milligauss. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Method two, press and hold the side panel button. This measures the background levels of EMF, zero point 0.1 mcg to 1 mcg. So I think I have to just let this thing turn off. So I'm going to try to set it where hopefully it won't be going crazy because it's close to this computer. Now, I mentioned voice recorders. I actually have two different voice recorders because you never know when your battery's going to run down on them. And I think I took both of these to Waverly Hills on my second, like the paranormal investigation. and both of the batteries in these ran down very
Yeah.
quickly. Now, it's been said to me, I read up on it,
Yeah.
that when there's a lot of spiritual activity around you, things like these little guys, these voice recorders, cameras, phones, video cameras, any of that stuff, the battery will go down
Yeah, it just drains the
very
energy.
quickly. They steal that energy
Mhm.
basically from the devices. Now, my in paranormal investigation that I went on at Waverly, everything in my kit, the batteries ran down in it, and then towards the end of the investigation, I only had my phone. That's all I had. Now this is not really any super expensive piece of equipment, but it does have night vision on it. This is my HD video camera, my handheld video camera. It fits in the palm of my hand. These things are really handy, especially if they have night vision on them, for paranormal investigations. And I'm not sure if I've lost Candice, if she's frozen or not. No, she moved. Okay.
I'm
I
looking something up, and I didn't want to
okay.
disturb you, so I stuck it on mute.
Now, this is another meter right here. And this one's also supposed to measure the spiritual energy. So this one has lights on it. Again, if you have this close to a computer, you have this close to a television or a microwave or whatever, I don't know. Let me see if I can. I was trying to bring it closer to some of my equipment. You will usually see this thing go crazy. The lights will go all the way over. Now, when I was doing that paranormal investigation from the house, for those of you that remember me doing that stream, uh, I was, doing this number. I was just kind of scanning the room back here. Now, I'm seeing a little bit of activity. I don't see if I put it way out here, I'm getting lights. Now, I know you guys and gals can't see that, but the second light's lighting up and even the third light in some cases. Um, Now, when I bring it in camera view, you're only seeing the one light. But again, when I put it out here, it's picking something up towards the middle of the room. And they're blinking on and off very rapidly. So that leads me to believe that there's something, according to this, there's something about the middle of the room.
Dana's gonna get spooked.
Well, the dogs act very peculiar at times, um, in this room.
You say they do in the doorway or something, don't you,
In the
Dana?
doorway, in the doorway between this room and the kitchen, and between the kitchen and the living room.
Yeah.
That seems to be a very active area. But again, you might see little flashes of the light, but I know you're thinking, well, Dana, it's easy to do. You're saying you're sticking it out here, and but it is. It's really two of the lights are blinking on and off really quickly whenever I point it towards the center of the room. So, but that's another meter that I have. I also I haven't used this thing much, but this is an infrared thermometer. And again, whenever there is high spiritual activity, an area will get really cold. And Candace probably has experienced these code spots,
Yeah.
as they call them. There have been times when I've not had the air conditioning on back here, and this is a traditionally warm room for our house. It was a room that was built onto the house, but it gets downright cold in the
Mm.
dead of summer sometimes in here. And that's another reason why I think that there is spiritual activity that's concentrated in this room. Why, I don't really know.
Somebody could have passed away or anything there.
Mhm,
Or you have an older house as well, like I do.
yep. It was a house built in the 1950s, so
Mhm.
it's pretty old. Um, Something else that I haven't really used a lot, let me see if I can open this thing up, is it says the ear listens on the outside of the box. It's a geophone, is what this is called.
Yeah.
And this also allows you to hear and sense spiritual activity. But I haven't really had a lot of time to play around with this device. Um, I have these little guys that I have experienced some success with them. They light up.
Yeah.
And when there's activity going on, they will flicker. They just have little like watch batteries in them. I was going to see if I could get them to. Oops. Probably the batteries are probably dead in these now, and they probably won't work because I haven't had them out in a long time. Yeah, because I switched it on. It's not. I probably just need to replace those batteries in there. But that's what they're supposed to do. They have some of these in Waverly Hills. They have little balls that supposedly spirits of kids will roll. I've seen those balls roll. Me and my neighbor Kim's husband were like, we were talking to the spirits and we would roll it. And it wouldn't roll directly back to us, but it would kind of make a quarter turn and start to come back to us. We would roll it out and then it would just turn like a quarter of a turn. But that's the big stuff I wanted to show you from my kit. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. And you can buy these kits. You can buy them at these ghost hunting places. You can purchase them from Amazon, and they vary in price. Some of them, could be hundreds of dollars, but I did not spend that much on mine. And then, of course, I've added things like the spirit box and the extra voice recorder,
Yeah.
things of that nature. So you can have as small of a kit or as elaborate of a kit as you would like, and or as much as you can afford to spend on such a kit. Um, and then here's the trick: is getting everything back in there. Open this thing back up. There we go. But whoops, I forgot to put the Gauss meter back in there. But Candace, if you'd like to share another story, I'd love for you to do that while I'm trying to get this Gauss meter.
Okay. Um, and Rat Hammer says, "Have you seen a UFO?"
I can't say that I have.
Yeah. I believe I have, Rat Hammer. I actually told the story in this week's Apples and Oranges. At the end, I pop on there and I tell my experience with what I believe was a UFO as a child. Wasn't the traditional UFO that most people talk about, but it was something very strange that I definitely believe was something that could have possibly been something from another world. um, so if you want to go watch that, then I talk about that there. Um, I believe there is a possibility of things beyond this world. But yeah, I definitely want to talk about the stuff in or Louisiana, New Orleans. But I wanna you reminded me of something, whenever you played that clip, um, and the voice sounded like Steve to me, and it reminded me of a time that happened to me. Um, I had worked in my I think it was the end of my was it? No, it might have been the beginning of my senior year. I started working at a department store, and I started working with she's my mom's double first cousin. So she was always like an aunt to me, the double first cousins. You're related to everybody that they're related to, through two sisters getting married to another set of brothers. Um, but so I knew her, and I knew the manager. I knew people that worked there, and I loved working there. And um, everything was great, but that place was definitely haunted. My grandma had told me that that place where that department store was built was once a graveyard that her family was actually buried in, and that they had exhumed all the bodies and like moved it somewhere else so that they could build that big old shopping mall there. If that's true, I can't confirm it. I've never looked it up or anything like that, but that's just what, by word of mouth, that's what she knew, and that's what she told me. So I had worked there probably a good, 2 years by this point, and me and a friend of mine that worked um, it wasn't a perfume
Candace, I,
counter.
I hate to interrupt you
Yeah,
again, but I've been drinking way too much fluid and I need to
go
excuse
ahead.
myself for just a second.
Um, it wasn't a cologne counter, it's like a makeup counter. So she worked that part of the store, and I was just a sales associate. So I worked different, the shoe department and the little kids department and the men's and the misses and all that good stuff. Well, a lot of the activity that we would happen back where the shoe department was, and the hot spot of the store, and everybody that worked there knew of this activity. And the actual the ghost that we had there, everybody called him Fred. Everybody made light of it, and just called him Fred because he would come through, and late at night, our manager or assistant manager, we would turn out all the lights, getting ready to walk out, because before you walked out of the store, you would have to turn out all the lights. And then like these like floodlights would come on, just barely sprinkling around the store. So it was really, really dark there, besides these little soft lights that would be, sprinkled throughout the store here and there. And she would actually, you know, if we got somebody new working there, she always did this to them, we'd do it just for fun, but it actually scared us, because she would go and she would say, let's show whoever was working there, the new person, let's show them Fred. And so we would go stand where like the lingerie department was, and that's where you get the gowns and stuff like that. And we'd stand amongst the racks, and everybody would stand perfectly still. And she said, everybody just stand still. And we would be standing there. And all of a sudden, from around us where nobody was standing, the racks, it was like, just like somebody took their hand and just would make them move. And if anybody that I worked with would ever to see this, they could recount that. Yeah, that happened. And it would freak you out. And I remember the first time that I seen it, it freaked me out, but I was thinking they've got a string. They've got this rigged up, because they had been talking about it, and they was going to show it to me and all this stuff. And so at the time, I thought that they were just joking, but the longer that I started working there, I started feeling it. I would have experiences here and there. And the lady who worked the shoe department, and that's where a lot of the activity come from, was not out on the floor, would be inside, back in the back room, because this department store had just like one set of shoes, like one shoe that was on this wall. And people would go look at these shoes that were on this wall, and they would say, oh, I like this. Can you go get this loafer for me in a size 13? So you would get that loafer, you'd go back, and on the bottom of it, it would tell you where it was. And you would go to these like cages in the back in the warehouse we called it, and through these like chicken wire cages that these shelves were built on, you would go find that shoe number. Well, the lady who worked in the shoe department, that was her actual department, and I would have to cover it, or whoever else was on call or working that night when she was on a day off or a night off would have to work that department. And I always hated it because I hated going back there because it was dark and dingy. And um, she was a very religious person, and she was somebody that, wouldn't say this stuff lightly. But she would be back there, and you would go back there in the back room, like in the warehouse department, like if a truck came or if you had to go back there to get your stock for your department that you were working in, you would have to go back there and get it. And sometimes you would hear her back there praying. She would just be back amongst those shoes, praying. And when she would come out, you could see her still, sometimes you would be outside of where the customers were, and you could see her still talking to herself. And she would tell me, she said, the reason why I pray when I go back there, she said, because I can feel something bad back there. She said, whatever's back there, I'm not fooling with it. And she said, I got God on my side, and I am getting protected whenever I go back there. And that's not something that she took lightly. That's not something that she would joke about. That's not something that she was straight through and through. She knew and felt that something was back there. And she told me, she said, Candice, I worked here for 40 years. And she said, there is something back there. There is something in this store. And she said, I ain't fooling around with it. So, if she's saying that, then you know that there's something weird there. Well, okay. So it was known that Fred, we called him, liked to mimic people. My cousin, who's, she's like an aunt to me because she's my mom's double first cousin. She was really close to the assistant manager that worked there. And they would hear each other calling to, like, my cousin would hear my assistant manager hollering at her, but my assistant manager wasn't there. Or my assistant manager would be there alone, and she would hear my cousin hollering at her. It was known that, and they knew it was Fred. They said, "Oh, that's Fred hollering at you." He likes to mimic voices. And you think, well, you feel like something's here, but I've never had experience like that. Well, me and my friend who worked the not a perfume counter, but a makeup counter that sold perfume as well. We were in the back, and we went back there. Wasn't really a lot of people in the store at the time, so we went back there to get our stock. So you go back there, and they'd have these pallets. They had, like, I was working the missus department, she was working the makeup counter, and it had our departments on it. So we would have to get those boxes and put them on a dolly and take them back to our departments. And we were back there together getting our stock, and we were just talking to one another. And it's kind of right outside of where those big shoe cages were, where a lot of the activity is. And we had heard a box fall from those, where the shoes were. Well, nobody was working the shoe department that night. I was in the missus section, but I was kind of where they had called in. I was put on duty to watch kind of both places, and we didn't really have a lot of people there that night. Actually, when we come out of the stock room, we didn't even have customers at the time. That's how dead it was that night. Not to use that kind of terminology, but it was dead that night. So when we heard something fall, we just kind of looked and was like, something's fell off the edge or something like that. It's an old building. Didn't think much of it. When all of a sudden, we were just sitting there talking to one another, when inside my ear, like inside my ear, it's the weirdest thing. We heard our mutual friend that worked there, who was not there that night, say something. I cannot remember what it said. And I remember we both at the same time looked at one another, like with wide eyes. We were shocked. And we just looked at each other, and she said, "Did you hear something?" And I said, "Yeah, it was in my ear." And she said, "Mine too." She said, "Was it so and so?" and I'll leave people's names out of it because they've not asked to be put on here, and I don't want to say names. But if they're happen to watch, because I did share this on my Facebook, if they are watching it, then they'll know that it's them that I'm talking about. Um, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that was just freaky." It was like in our ear, and she was like, "Let's get out of here." So we got up and got out of there. I don't even think we got our stock. We just left it behind. And as we were leaving that back room, we hear over in that shoe cage area like a evil type laughter. And
Mm.
we just were gone. I was like, this is crazy. And we went to our assistant manager. We was like, we heard Fred. And so that place is long gone. That store is not there anymore. It's a different store. It's actually at Ollie's now. So it's our
Hmm.
local Ollie's. So my friend actually works there at that Ollie's now. And I remember I walked in there and I seen her. I was like, "Oh, you work here now?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I used to work at Peebles. It used to be a Peebles that I used to work at, and it's long gone now." And she said, "Oh yeah, did you?" She said, "Did you ever have anything strange happen to you here?" And I said, "Why, yes." I said, "I guess you've met Fred." She said, "Who?" And I told her, I said, "What happens to you?" And she basically described everything that we had happened to us. And I was like, "Yeah, that's Fred." I said, "We've named him Fred." And I told her stuff that had happened to us. Well, I come back probably about a month later, and she's like, "You'll never guess what happened." She said, "We're hearing like our coworkers hollering at us that's not even here. The manager come in, just experiencing the same things that that had happened, and come to find out that other stores like next door to us and to the Peebles and stuff, they had experienced weird things happening to them. So I don't know if it has anything to do with the cemetery that was there. Like I said, I've not been able to even prove that was a cemetery at one point. That's just something that my grandma had told me that she had heard. Maybe, maybe not. It could have just been a old tale or something. But whatever it was, something was there. And it did like to mimic voices. And I remember our friend that worked there, who's actually my cousin. It was my aunt. Like I said, she's not really my aunt. It was her nephew. He worked there too, and was like, "We heard your voice. You wasn't here, but it was mimicking your voice." He's like, "Oh gosh, I don't, don't want to hear that." But yeah, that was a spooky time um, for that. But I never felt threatened there. It just felt
Right.
like it was whatever it was. It didn't feel like a spirit. It felt like something different. It felt more like a something that wasn't of this world. It was like something that was never earthbound, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
It felt like it was something kind of brought there by something, and I didn't like that at all. That's the only thing I didn't like, and I had to work there a lot alone 'cause I did maintenance there, so I had a key to the store, and I'd have to come there and early in the morning, like 6 in the morning, and have to, like, fix lights, get on a big ladder, and change light bulbs and stuff like that, so I'd always get kinda creeped out there, but it was never felt threatening, just spooky in a
Yeah.
bad
Yes. I mean,
way.
that stuff that happened to me back here in this room,
Mhm.
I didn't feel like anything was going to get me or cause me harm or anything like that, but it was indeed creepy. Anytime, it doesn't matter where you're at, but if you're alone or it's just you and your dogs or
Yeah.
you and your cats or whatever, because dogs and cats will freak you out before anything else does. I mean, they'll freak you out more than a parakeet
Oh,
or a
yeah.
bearded dragon, an iguana, a snake, even guinea pigs,
Mhm.
because they will just be. And I think Whoopi Goldberg said this best. Does anybody remember when Whoopi Goldberg had her late night talk show and she had different people on there? I don't think it
Oh, yeah.
lasted very long, but she had Stephen King on there one night and
Mhm.
they were talking about different stuff. And she was talking about her cats. She was telling Stephen King about her cats. She said, and cats will freak you out first, she says,
Yeah.
because you'll be sitting there. And then all of a sudden the cat will look up like this, like it's looking at something. And she says, "You're like, stop." You know, you don't want them doing that. And see, dogs are just as bad as
They
cats
are.
because I have found Reggie, my pit bull mix, just sitting there frozen, staring at the wall. I can see nothing, but apparently he sees something. Sammy, we attribute a lot of Sammy's whining and stuff like that to him having anxiety issues. But then I got to thinking about maybe he's sensing something because he will just be laying on the couch sometimes and he will, and then he'll just start barking
Yeah.
for no apparent reason. I go back there. I said, "What's wrong with you, Sammy?" And he just looks at me like that, like there's something here, but you can't see it or you can't sense it for some reason. So the dogs and cats are
Yeah.
very, very perceptive to otherworldly
Yeah.
things, um, even more so than human beings could ever be. And
Yeah.
I know Candace has she's been sending me voice messages before. We've been doing it back and forth, and the other night Miko was
Yeah.
wound up. He was knocking stuff over and everything.
Yeah, it was during a time that we were kind of experiencing something here. I won't go into it. It's kind of personal, so I won't go into it. Dana knows about it, but we were kind of experiencing something weird here because we had brought an object into the house. It was a personal object, and um, Miko just goes crazy, and I'm always texting, sending her voicemails and stuff like that while I'm like out and about and doing things.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you never heard him do that before.
Nope.
He had never done that before, and he was just acting really crazy. And I was like, "What's going on?" He was knocking tables over. He's just going crazy and looking like up at the door, like he seen something. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't really know what it was. He could have just wanted out, but he was just acting out of the ordinary. That's for sure.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
had never experienced him acting that way before.
No.
So and so to bring up something real quick, Candace has been talking about these spirits being able to mimic
Yeah.
other people and people that you know. And so I'll tell this real short story about when I was still living with my parents. This is before I met Steve or met any of the friends that I hang out with now and all that stuff. It was way before that. So you know how you come out of a dead sleep
Mhm.
sometimes and you'll hear things or sense things or you know and I'm not going to say it wasn't a dream, but it didn't seem like any dream that I have ever experienced before or since. So I was awakened from a dead sleep by a woman's voice saying my name. They said, "Dana," like they were calling out to me. Not really like they were screaming or that they were in danger. It's just like somebody was wanting my attention. And I sat bolt upright in bed and I said, "Mom." And the more and more I think about it and think about Candace talking about the spirits being able to mimic people that you know, family members, etc., it sounded a lot like my mom's voice.
Yeah.
But my mom was asleep. And I even asked her about the next day. I said, "Mom, did you call out to me real early? I'm talking extremely early morning hours." And she said, "No, Dana." She said, "I was asleep."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, Mom, I heard a woman's voice say, 'Dana.' And, it sounded kind of like you. And I just thought maybe you're calling out to me." And she said, "No." So the only thing I can think of was it was some, supernatural
Yeah.
being that was trying to make contact with me for some reason. And the best way I guess they thought they could get my attention was to try to mimic my mom's voice.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that one. That was something weird that happened to me when I was living in my mom and dad's
Yeah.
house. Blissel says that happens to her a lot, female and male voices.
Mhm.
Um, and Smokey, I wanted to welcome you
Yeah.
before I forget about it. Um, Smokey says I should use a Ouija board to contact the spirits in your place. Well, I would, Smokey, but we talked about this a little bit earlier, and you may have not been in here then. That I will not use a Ouija board without another person. Uh, and I showed this, but I'll show it again. So for those of you that are nervous about Ouija boards, you might want to step out briefly. But this is my handmade Ouija board. So I do have one that I could use, and this, of course, is the planchette that goes with it. Um, but I can't get my husband Steve to use it with me, and I can't get my neighbor Kim to use it with me, and I'm not going to try to make somebody, because people have their beliefs, and
Mhm.
I would never want to force anybody to use this with me. But I am not going to use it by
No, I
myself,
don't blame you.
because I'm terrified of leaving some door open and something slipping through that I don't want getting attached
No.
to me. Um, but Smokey also says, I found you, but haven't spoken in here, just been watching silently for a few lives. And that is perfectly fine, but I'm glad you felt comfortable enough to
Yeah.
stop in and say hey today. So we welcome you.
Yeah, we love to see new people, come in and stuff. It shows that we're, putting out a good show. Dana's putting out a good show, and that people are watching. So we love to hear from you. If anybody else that's watching that is, kind of been kind of shy about saying, "Hey, I'm watching," we'd love to hear from you.
TJ also says, he says human brains are cluttered with
Mhm.
nonsense. Supposedly very young kids can see stuff adults don't know.
Yeah,
Kids and
Noah was one that, would look up at the ceiling and giggle, and, he was always watching something and looking around. I can tell that at a different time. There's some stuff with him that was really odd. But yeah, babies do, and when I was a kid, I seen stuff. Um, so yeah, I truly believe that.
that's probably Steve home now. Um, I gotta read what Chris said. Dana gonna use that Ouija board, then come into the streams afterwards and be like, "I'll swallow your soul." Lord, I hope not.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, hey, Batman. Batman says that happened to me up at work. I was on break, and in the middle of eating my lunch, I heard a voice, and it was, "Hey, Will, come check this out." And I had asked the manager if he called for me, and he said no. So,
Mm.
um, hey, Steve. Um, One moment, I can't read Steve's face, so I'm gonna, Candace, if you want to tell another story, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
take myself out of here real quick.
Well, I guess I could tell the stuff about, about my son and some stuff. I would like to tell my stories about Louisiana and New Orleans and stuff, but Chris is on here. I would really like to I'd rather tell those stories when he is here with me, because we experienced it together. Um, No, Blissful. I've never had a voice say goodnight to me, and I don't want one either. Um, I think I would probably, not be sleeping that night if I did. But I would rather wait for Chris to be on one of these, so we can talk about it together, because it is something that happened together we were together when it happened. So, I might save those for another time. Because I'm sure we'll do another one of these at some point, and, I have a ton of stories, but I'm gonna talk about when my son was young. Um, our very first home that Chris and I had together was my great grandmother's home, and I loved it there. But it was a creepy house. Even whenever she was alive, it was a creepy home. You kind of always felt like there was somebody watching you there. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed a little off. But I loved it there because it reminded me of my great grandmother. I was very close with her, and by the time that Chris and I had lived in the home, she had been passed away for a few years. So I felt very close to her there. She loved her home, and so that's what made it comfortable for me. But when we first moved in, it was right before we got married. And then after we were married, I had my son. And he was a baby, and he would see things. We could never see what he was seeing, but he would look up at one spot. It was one particular spot in the living room where he would just stare at it, no matter where we were sitting in that room. It doesn't matter if we were sitting in the corner on the left or the corner on the right on the sofa. It doesn't matter where, if he was in like a playpen, it doesn't matter. He would always look at that one spot on the wall, on the ceiling, and he would laugh like he was seeing something. And it was the spot that was right where my great grandmother's chair used to be that she always sat in. The chair was long gone by then, but it was right in that spot of where she always sit. And but it was in the ceiling. Is the weird thing about it. He would just look up at the ceiling. He would laugh like somebody was making him laugh. You know how you play like peekaboo with a baby, and they'll laugh real hard for a second, and they'll stop, and then they'll laugh again. That's the kind of laughter that he was, showing, and it was very strange. And we were kind of not weirded out by it, but it was odd, and because it happened all the time. In the same house, my brother, and he may still be on here. He was on here a while ago. If he is still on here, maybe he can hop on and say, "Yeah, that's what happened to me." But I remember my son was still young, and we still lived in the house, and my brother come to stay all night with me. And I noticed that he rarely wanted to come there and stay, and I didn't know why. But he stayed all night with us one night, and the next morning he was just ready to leave. And I come to find out that throughout the night, he had awakened sometime through the night to look into our kitchen. And right from the living room was this huge opening. Huge, like it was enough room for two doors to be there, but it was an opening. It was just like a archway um, leading into our kitchen. And when he awoken, he seen a man standing, leaning up against that archway. And he said, and I didn't mean to laugh at him because he was being serious. He said that he looked like Kenny Rogers. If anybody knows the country singer Kenny Rogers, that is what this person looked like. He had the beard, like a white gray hair. He just looked like Kenny Rogers to to him, and I thought that was funny. But he was like, "Well, it wasn't that funny when I seen him, but that's the only way that he could describe him." And I knew that my brother wasn't making stuff up because Chris and I had plenty of experiences in that house. Um, I remember shortly after we moved in, we would see shadows. And this isn't it first started out of the corner of our eyes, but then we were laying in bed one day and had our door shut, and our door to our bedroom was right outside the kitchen. And all that we had on was the stove light, the light that's above the stove that's got the exhaust in it that takes smoke and fumes away. And we had that light on, and we were like looking that way, if for some reason both of us were, and underneath the door we seen a shadow move across it. Chris jumped up, opened up the door, and we couldn't see anything. But we would see shadows all the time. You would feel like somebody was watching you. It was just a strange feeling sometimes at that house. Sometimes we'd feel nothing, sometimes we would feel So yeah, that was a weird thing. Then we moved to some apartments that I hated. I just realized that apartment life was not for me, and Chris felt the same way. We actually moved out there shortly after because there was a big set of steps, and Noah was terrified because at this point he was like two or three, and he fell down the steps one day, and he said the man at the bottom of the steps made him fall. And he would always scream and say that there's a man at the bottom of the steps. It was weird. It was a really weird thing. And, people had died in that apartment. We knew people who lived around there, and it was like, yeah, so and so got killed there. So it was like, well, we're not going back there. That's a crazy thing. And one night, me and Chris, what the boiling point was, Chris and I was sitting in the living room, and the activity was so high at that point, so high that we were hearing stuff coming from all directions. We was hearing like just an array of voices. Just both of us was hearing it at the same time. If Chris is in here, he can collaborate. It was like you couldn't make out what they were saying, but it was just everywhere, and we were about drove crazy. I was like, we have to leave this place. Um, and I had a guinea pig there that something strange happened to it. I told Dana the story about the guinea pig. I think that the maintenance people killed her because she was fine one minute. They came in, and if you live in apartments, if you're used to living in apartments, they come and they spray like for pests and stuff like that. If we didn't have pests, but I guess that's why they came and sprayed to keep that down. And I think they killed her. Um, Not in the apartment that we were living in, but some that was down below us. The furnace exploded and almost killed people. It blew the whole apartment up like a bomb. So yeah, we were glad to get out of there. That was something, and they would walk into your home unannounced. I know that's not supernatural, but it was just a messed up place to live in. And I never want to live there. Never want to live in a place like that again. Hopefully we got our forever home here. But anything can happen. I know that for a fact. But it's very inhumane. I mean, people shouldn't have to live like that. Be forced to live in a place like that where they, have such weird rules. But I don't know if what we yeah, Chris said, I heard someone upstairs talking one day coming from my room and where I kept my collection. I ran up to it as fast as I could and screamed for someone to show themselves, but there was nothing there.
Mhm.
And that was some of the weirdest things that ever happened there. But Dana, I don't know if it was supernatural or if we were getting Chris and I almost passed away there. The stove was leaking. The
Mm.
stove was leaking. It was a gas stove, was leaking gas, and me and Chris just about like because we felt ourselves getting woozy, and the stove was leaking, and we just happened to find it, and right before we both passed out. And I'm sure that if we hadn't, if we carbon monoxide would have probably been so bad that we probably would have, passed away. But who's to say that something like from the furnace or something down below us, because there's a boiler room below us, wasn't leaking some kind of gas or something up and making us hallucinate? I mean, you don't never know because it was really strange. We heard a lot of voices there, and Noah kept on seeing somebody at the bottom of the steps. Yeah, Chris really came close to passing out. So it was a strange time, but I was just telling that story, Dana. I need to go let my mom in real quick. I'll let you, tell whatever you want to tell, and I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay. Um, so while Candace is away, I will show some stuff from my paranormal investigation at Waverly Hills. So let me bring up some stuff. So I have audio, I have pictures, I have video. Um, some of this stuff, you may not be able to see anything real good, but Let me share my screen again. So this is actually my badge that I got that I wish I got to keep. Um, it says Waverly Hills Sanatorium Tour Admission Pass. Um, and you had to give this back when you finished your investigation. So I was sad that I didn't get to keep it. Can't see anything there or there. It was pretty dark there. I think that was an accidental picture. Some of these are accidental. That one was actually, I think, inside the building, but over in this area here there were windows, but it was very dark at this point. Like I said, some of these, yeah, there's a picture I took from the roof. You can see the edge of the building here. There's another one inside, but you can see the trees out the window there. There's another one. There's more. The reason why I took so many of these kind of shots is because I was hoping to catch something. Here is another corner of the building. You can see the trees and the sky and stuff. There's another one. It was very dark in there. So a lot of this stuff, there's the side of the building there, corner of the building. Okay, so I was talking about the balls that people have left around at various areas of the building at Waverly Hills. And these are the balls that the spirits of the children like to move. And somebody was doing their own little investigation, and I got a shot of the ball there. There's another shot through a window. There's just looks like some shelves in one of the rooms. You just see a lot of odd looking things inside of Waverly Hills. Um, some of these shots were just where the only light was coming through the windows. That's not a spirit, that's just somebody, standing there. Now, here's a closer picture. Remember earlier I was telling you there were two sisters that had adjoining rooms in Waverly Hills. And I believe one of the sisters passed away in this particular room. And this, what I guess, was a closet in there. And her name was Lois Higgs. She was a patient who died. I believe she was, 25 or so. And you can see her in this picture. This was her room. You can see somebody's left a rose there. People left different trinkets and stuff. This guy here is my neighbor's husband, Troy. We were just looking at the picture and the things that people had left for Lois. There's a. No, she was 28. So Lois Higgs, a patient of this Waverly Hills Tuberculosis Hospital, passed away August 18th of 1956 at 28 years of age. This was her room. And you can see again the different things that are left. I think this is more of that room. There's Troy again. He's taking his own pictures there. It's another view from outside the window. Um, there's some of the rooms and hallways in Waverly Hills. I know I'm cycling through some of these quite quickly because um, I didn't really see anything in these. The hallways look very creepy. All the hallways look creepy in this place. There's a bathtub. I was just taking random pictures. There's a shot outside where the spotlight was falling on the wings of the gargoyle. I just thought was a cool shot. There's those places where they put the bodies. It is essentially a morgue. And there's Troy again, walking out of frame there. I mean, this was my attempt by taking so many of these shots to find, another. I was hoping I would catch another entity like I did on our 2-hour tour that we went on. There's that cafeteria area again where I did, when me and Steve went on the 2-hour tour, we did see something. There's a close up shot of one of the gargoyles with the keep out sign. There's a shot in the daylight of the outside of that enormous building. This is me and my neighbor Kim. This was the next day. Kim had spent pretty much the whole night in the car out in the parking lot because she was unable to stay inside the building, sadly. But this is a picture that Troy took of us the next morning. So I see Candice is back. Do you want me to continue with some of those, Candice, or
Yeah.
okay? So I think that's basically all the pictures that I have. But as I said, I have. Well, I guess I could play this random audio. Hopefully, shoot, it's not going to play that. Um, but there was some audio. I'll have to figure out how to play that maybe at a later time because it's in a file format that it's not wanting to play on my new computer. So I may have to convert it and then play it at another time. But let me see if I can get the video to play because there was something that I really, really wanted to. Well, I may be able to play some of this audio. Can y'all hear that? Candace is muted, so I'm not sure if she's hearing it or not.
Let me turn it up. Do it again. Playing.
Okay. Let me run this back again. Now you will hear me and Troy whispering, but the guide is saying, "Is your name Andrew?" Chris is telling you to plug in Noah's headphones, Candace.
I can hear it, but it's not like real loud.
Yeah, it's not real super plain. That was awesome. Let me try something here. I might be able to. Oops. No. There's rings with caskets in it. I can't tell what's in there. So can everybody see the video that's playing? It's not much video to see. They must have had a spirit box. Yeah. See, the thing about those is you can hear it right off with the spirit box. With my EVPs, I got to go back and listen. And that's me blabbing. So I wanted a spirit box, but it's too expensive for me to get. So that was a little snippet. Talking to the spirits through a spirit box. That was. Let me see if I can bring up another one of these real quickly here. Okay, so remember when I was saying that Kim was acting very strangely during certain times? Now, I have a little clip. I don't think she'll mind me showing this on the stream. Um, this was her outside on the roof getting some fresh air. One second here. Okay, let's see. All right, so it there's also night vision going on here. So if Kim looks strange, that wasn't due to the spirits. It was just something with the night vision. So let me share this here. Oops. Kim's eyes look really weird. Kim play don't film.
Yeah, yours do too. Yours look the same.
Yeah, Troy's look weird too. Yeah.
I don't know, I can't see.
I think I hit the record button again and it closed it. As long as it's not.
It's recording still.
Okay. It's not blinking?
No,
Okay. Then it's recording.
no, I think it's paused.
Troy was actually filming with my camera here. Okay. So let's see what else we got here. Let's see if I can find the really cool thing that happened when me and Troy were in the body shoot. And that's when we saw the actual entity here. Let's see. Okay. So here's body shoot edit. We can see this on the okay. So y'all don't have to watch everything. Um, I'm gonna get it to a certain spot here. Okay, I'm gonna put it right about there. And then I'm going to share my screen again. I keep hitting video file. I don't want to do that. Okay. So we're headed back through the body chute back to the entrance. And this is when we saw the entity. I wonder if they were talking to that Kim because she told him that was not a nice word.
She said it's not a nice word. Look how close we were to the top.
Well, maybe I did it too far. Hold on here. He may just disappear. Okay.
Yeah, because there's nothing on the steps.
But I see like it. Okay. Now y'all watch real carefully. I think I just saw something, Troy. Come up here a little bit and see if you can see that on the. See that? Like can anybody see that? Whatever it is hovering above the steps or on the steps.
Mm-hmm. Seeing a lot of what looks to be, or I know some of that might be dust, but I'm seeing some that looks definitely like orbs.
But I feel like it looks almost like a woman with a long dress or a gown of some sort.
What is that?
When I was looking at it through my cell phone, it looked like a woman in a long dress.
Is it right there at the top of those 3 steps? There's like a grayish.
Yeah. Because I can see it like up at the top there. Wow.
Could you see anything with the naked eye?
Yeah, because there's nothing on the steps.
I could see it faintly, but I could see it more clearly when I was using the video
On
through my
the
cell
video,
phone.
yeah.
She's not really coming any closer either. She's just. I wonder if we walked through.
How are you feeling at this time, Dinah? Was you scared?
I think I was too amazed at this
Like
to be
adrenaline?
scared. So you can see her. She's floating backwards as we are coming forward. Moving backwards. Further. And then eventually she will disappear. She moves backwards.
It's also like she's kind of like floating through the steps as well.
I think she's almost gone now.
TJ wants to know, did he see it too?
Yeah, Troy was seeing it a lot through the naked eye, so he could see it with the naked eye, and I was focusing more through my cell phone. She will eventually fade so much that you can't see her. Now, that didn't mean she wasn't still there, but, we could not see her. We were wore out, too, because we were going up these steps and up an incline, too.
Now, at this point, it's just you and him there, right? In the death chute.
Yeah, we were the only ones in there. You can still see her a little bit.
It's a long tunnel.
I also had more weight on me at this time, and so I was getting winded. I think she just vanished. Yeah, I think that was at the point that she vanished. So the rest of the video, basically, I'm gonna pause it. Basically, the rest of the video is us trying to make our way back to the beginning of the death shoot. TJ says a lot of steps. I'm tired watching. We definitely got our exercise that night. We went all the way down to the end of the death tunnel or body chute, and then we turned around and went back up the steps to go back up. And we didn't see anything going down, but going back was when we saw the woman, or what appeared to be a woman in a long dress.
I have always wanted, like, that was one of my, like, go-to places that I had, like, on my bucket list of places I always wanted to visit was Waverly Hills. I had never visited a place like that, like a very well-known haunted location like that before. So when I visited Myrtle's Plantation and I had the experience that I had there in New Orleans, and, realizing that I'm super sensitive. And I don't know if I could handle it. I don't know if I could handle going to a place like that again. I don't even want to go back to Myrtle's Plantation again. Um, if I did go back, if I did go to a place like that again, and if I did decide to go to Waverly Hills, I would need to definitely be with people that I was comfortable with, maybe you, Chris, people that I know that if I started becoming distressed that I could leave. I did not become distressed at Myrtle's Plantation, so I think I could handle it. I think I could handle it, but it's just those experiences take a lot out of you. It's like you're being drained of energy.
Yeah.
When you feel energy, you become drained. Because it takes a lot out of you. Because my experiences, like I said, I really want to talk about my experiences in New Orleans at Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana. But I would rather Chris be on here with
Right.
me, and
Exactly.
it would take a while for me to explain everything and really go into detail about what happened and my experiences and stuff like that. So I'm going to save those because it's already 4:18. They would take another probably 30, 40 minutes just for me to tell everything.
Right.
Sometimes getting into these stories take a while. So I'm going to save them for another show like this, another Friday Foolish, or another show that you may have that's paranormal.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we
just
can do
whatever.
them. Yeah, anytime you feel like doing another one of these, Candace,
Yeah.
we can do one, and maybe we can have Chris on, and you'd have like double the support. You'd have me
Yeah.
on, you'd have him on here, and he was actually the one with you at Myrtle's Plantation, so
Mhm.
I think that would be an excellent idea for him.
And I mean, though that's my real good story. That's what I really want to tell. And I want him to be on here with me because he experienced things, not at Myrtle's Plantation. Well, he did some at Myrtle's Plantation, but he experienced something really I thought was cool. I thought it was cool. He didn't think it was, but I seen him experience something on a ghost tour um, late at night on the streets of New Orleans. So that was really wasn't a fun thing for him, but it was. I was like, Chris, do you know what you just experienced?
Probably, I don't care.
It was at Marie Laveau's house.
Oh
Anybody
yeah,
knows who Marie Laveau, evil Marie Laveau, such an evil person, and so evil that they had to put bars on on the doors of the house. But he had a very, very weird thing happen to him. So, yeah. So if y'all want to catch that, watch the next. It'd probably be Friday Foolish if Dana has another like paranormal show. I'll join her for that. Whatever it is, we will have another one of these. I'm sure Dana's got a ton more that she can tell.
Oh,
Uh,
I'll come up with some more stuff. Maybe I'll do another investigation of the house again.
yeah,
Get
yeah.
some more stuff. And I hope that nobody felt like that I was monopolizing this.
No,
I
no.
hope not. Um, I did want to try to give me and Candace equal time on here, so I hope that I've achieved that. But
Yeah.
yes, we will definitely have more of these in the future.
Oh, yeah.
I know when I do night ones, like when I did one a while back and I actually did an investigation in the house, the people that attended freaked out
Well,
during
maybe that's what we should do, Dana. One night that you're free for a night. Maybe we could do one late, maybe on a weekend or something that you don't have to get up early the next day or something. Maybe we can do one late at night and I can come on and we could do a live investigation
Oh yeah.
and I can tell my story then. But just whatever you're up to, we'll figure it out, I'm
Well,
sure.
I tell you what, like this weekend I got a lot going on, but I'm not doing movie munchies or watch alongs. The following weekend I'll be doing movie munchies and watch alongs. So that next weekend after that on a Saturday night,
Yeah.
if you guys want to, if you and Chris want to, we'll
Yeah.
all get together and you can share your Myrtle's Plantation stories. We can
Yeah.
do a live investigation from my house.
Yeah, we'll do that. That
And
sounds
freak
that sounds good.
everybody out again.
Yeah, and I think people on here they're probably up for that as well. And it could be a good time. And if anybody has anything that they want to come on and share, we want it to be spooky, so
Yeah.
feel free to come on and share. I know a
So,
lot of people's had experiences. I know it's just
oh
not
yeah.
us.
Yeah,
So
no, definitely not. So if you want to share, it won't be this weekend, it won't be the following weekend, but the third
yeah.
weekend. On a Saturday, we're gonna set this up. We'll start about, I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and we'll go for as long as we all possibly can, or
Yeah.
for as long as the people in the chat want us to. And
We'll do our own Mystery Inc. We'll do our own Scooby Doo investigation.
exactly. I'll wear my Robert England Scooby Doo horror mashup
Yeah.
shirt or whatever. But this has been a good Friday Foolish. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to show off my pictures and my video and all of that. I enjoyed hearing Candace's stories, even the ones I'd heard before, because I'll tell you, Candace is a great storyteller. She
I
thinks
wish.
not. She thinks that, I wish my dad was here so he could tell you these
Yeah.
stories and stuff. But Candace evidently did inherit some of that from her dad, because she can tell a story and I'm just mesmerized. Even when we're not in
Oh,
the same room and she's telling me through audio only, I'm just fascinated by some of the stuff she's told me. TJ says, help Dana's algorithm and watch some of her videos while she's gone for the weekend.
yeah.
Yeah, I will be going to my parents tomorrow to help them celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary, which is actually today. I'm going to have to call my mom and wish her and dad a happy anniversary today. Today is actually their 50th wedding anniversary,
Mm.
but we're going to celebrate this weekend with some KFC. And, I said, now, Mom, do y'all want to go somewhere to eat and have me and Jason, that's my brother, go in half and half on that and pay for everybody's dinner? Or do you just want to have something at home where we bring food? And she said, well, I think we just want to have it at home. So,
She's been through a lot here lately, so I'm sure home's where she wants to be.
yeah, I don't blame her. But I want to thank Candace first off for being on another Friday Foolish. I think this has been a really good one.
Yeah,
I
it's been
it's
fun.
I'll be very surprised if this is not popular on on the replay, when people that couldn't come in today and watch it live, watch it later or over the weekend or whatever. If it does, the numbers don't shoot up for this one. I'd be very surprised, because more people than you realize are interested in this type
Yeah.
of stuff. Even if they don't believe per se, they like hearing people tell their
Yeah.
stories. Um, but I want to thank Candace again for being on here and
Thank
for
you for
sharing
having me.
stories. And there would be no Friday Foolish without Candace, because Candace is one half of this show, and a very important part of this
Thank
show.
you.
And Chris is too when he can be on, but I did see that Chris said he wasn't feeling too
Yeah.
well. So
I think we're coming down with something, Dana. I have a sore throat. I was sick the other day, so but I do want to extend the offer again. And I know Dana don't mind me saying this. Anybody that wants to join us next week for the next Friday Foolish, if there's something weird that you want to try, something that you've never tried before, we're having I think it's a cool idea that Dana agreed to have, was trying new things. We're going to have like a try this Friday Foolish where we get like Dana goes and buys some things that she's never tried before. So will I. Maybe try to get Chris in on it, and he might can hop in on his lunch break. Trying to get him to try mustard. He won't do that. He's like, no. But I found some international stuff that I've never tried. I love trying new things from different countries and different cuisines and stuff like that. But I'm trying to find things that is really outside of what I'm used to.
right.
So I think it's going to be a good one. If you got something that you want to come on here and try for the first time or anything like that, like I said, I don't think Dana minds. Come on here,
No,
and
the
as long
more
as
the
you're
merrier.
respectful, and follow the rules, we'll have you.
Yes, we will certainly have you. And I want everybody that can come on and wants to come on. I have room enough for 10 people on here total. We might break the internet, but we'll have fun while we're breaking the internet.
Yeah, and you don't have to stay on here. Just come on here and try what you want to try. If you want to stay, you can. If you want to get off afterwards, no pressure to stay on or anything like that. We just want to, you know, offer, um, participation if you feel like doing that. We want, I know Dana, she's very welcoming with anybody who respects her, number one. I mean, who wouldn't want to be respected,
Well, not only respect me, but respect other people
others.
in
Yeah.
the chat, the other people that are live with me.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as you can do that, we're good. We're good.
You're good to go.
I did want to bring up also that I've been doing these triple threat review shows on
Mhm.
Thursdays for Seductive Poison: The Resurgence. So I'm thinking about mixing it up a little bit. That one week I'll do a Seductive Poison triple threat review show. The next week, which this coming Thursday, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to be talking about shot on video, and primarily shot on video horror movies. I have this big book called Analog Nightmares.
Mm.
And I'm going to try to watch as many of these shot on video films as my brain can take and as many as I can find. Because some of them I like, some of them are a chore to get through. I ain't even going to lie about that.
Are you talking about like Blair Witch and stuff
Well,
like that? Is that what you mean by shot on
yeah,
video?
there were a lot of shot on video films in the 80s and
Mhm.
early 90s. There was a period of time where there were a lot of shot on video films. And I'm not saying we can't talk about stuff like Blair Witch, but I'm going to concentrate on those 1980s to early, possibly mid 1990s films, when there were just a whole bunch of shot on video films being made at that time. And I'm going to call it I Know What You Shot on Video. I was going to call it I Know What You Shot on Video last summer, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be too long of a title or not. But I was kind of trying to play on a movie title. Um,
I can't remember. Is the Video Dad a shot on video?
I don't think it is, but I will look into that one
Can't
further.
remember. It seems like it was, but I may be misremembering.
Uh,
Chris might know.
Chris says The Ripper is a shot on video film. It most certainly is. And I'll be covering that. Yes, TJ, 555, Boarding House, Sledgehammer. Speaking of movies that are bad, Boarding House, 555, and Sledgehammer are all bad films. Should have called it Shot in the Dark. But yeah, look forward to. I know what you shot on video to be making its premiere this coming Thursday. And we'll see how that goes. If it falls flat on its face, then maybe I'll consider that a fail. Cannibal Camp Out, that's right, TJ. There's a Wood Chipper Massacre, Blood Lake. I mean, there's a ton of them we can talk about. And if you haven't seen some of these titles we're talking about, a lot of them you can find on YouTube. I encourage you, in fact, to seek out things like Blood Lake, because Blood Lake makes me laugh every time I watch it, because it has this character named Little Tony. He's probably all of 13, possibly 14, but I'd be willing to say 13. He is the most, he's this horn dog, prepubescent boy. And he's the horniest kid I've ever seen in my life. The whole
Okay.
movie, he thinks he's going to have sex with another girl that's the same age as him. Like he thinks he's like his older brother who's had, a lot
Yeah.
more experience in that department than little Tony has. So if you want to watch Blood Lake just for the sheer audacity of watching little Tony say things like, hey, to his brother, he says, hey, Mike, he says, are you going to be a butthole this weekend, or are you going to let me drink? Every time I see that or hear that line, I just break up with laughter. You will find crazy scenes in 555 and Boarding House and Sledgehammer, Cannibal Camp Out, Wood Chipper Massacre, all of those typical shot on video movies. No, that's okay, TJ. He says, sorry to keep listing. Video Violence 1 and 2. Those are a couple more. Terror on Tour is not shot on video, Chris, as far as I know. It does look like it, but I don't believe it is. Yeah, you could lose your eyesight watching Terror on Tour. I'm not kidding. Um, but it is now 4:33, so I guess me and Candice should tie it up here so we can. I can get something for me and Steve's supper for one thing, and Candice, I'm sure she's got things that she's got to do. But we've been on here over 3 hours. It's been
Been a good
fun,
show.
and I've enjoyed it. I think Candice has enjoyed it. You guys and gals in the chat, you appear like you've enjoyed it. So there's more to come in this department. Just stay tuned. And we're going to get out of here. So we're off like a dirty shirt, as Ducky says in Pretty in Pink. But I want to remind everybody, as always, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Let's make this weekend a fantastic weekend and prepare ourselves for the coming work week. But let's enjoy our weekend. Don't let, thoughts of the work week ruin our weekend. We got to kick out the jams on the weekend and have a good time. So we'll see everybody next time. Y'all have a great rest of your Friday, folks.